Bases dropped on a week of going long here in SDH AM. John, hear you there. It is Thursday, and we continue in the Red Clay with our Red Clay wrap-ups. That's going to be the first part of hour number one. Joe Gould, the GM for Decatur FC and the WPSL, is coming on at quarter till. Their season kicks off this weekend. Drew Dickinson and I are going to have the first couple of matches for you on their social media, and you can watch that at the WPSL as well. Then in hour number two, it's the Power Hour with Nino and Niko. We go over Copas and Major League Soccer and all the things. 11 o'clock, we hold up the light board and go added time. Chris Doran's going to be joining us, the play-by-play voice for Columbus Crew. Then after that, we've got a bit of a tease of an interview that Jason did with Dimitrios Efstathiou from the front office of Atlanta United, talking about Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Training Ground being the home for Uzbekistan come the World Cup, UPSL updates, and the rest of your news. We got stuff out of Spokane. We got CONCACAF W, Villa won in the Europa League, Casemiro maybe to Messi and friends, Southampton, Hull, Millwall, Wrexham. And that's just getting started because you never know what's going to happen during the show. So since we are in said show, it's that time to continue the Red Clay wrap-ups. And for this one, we go to Milledgeville. Catch up with our friend Dustin Jeanette, head coach at GMC Prep. Have you caught your breath yet, sir?
John, I thought I was busy with graduation today. You sound extremely busy. You know what? Most normal people would say, hey, you can finally breathe. You can finally sleep. Let me tell you about my week. I have a kid graduating. They do multiple ceremonies around here. I'm a teacher, so finishing up the last week of school, the grades and everything. And then I found myself at the soccer fields Monday and Tuesday with my 7-year-old trying out for his first season of club soccer. So, and of course, I'm voluntold, thanks, Bobby, to be an assistant coach for his U9 team.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, not resting yet, but we're close.
Yeah. Where is the trophy, sir?
I actually just put my eyes on it. It's sitting in the front office for everybody to come see. It was tough to give it back. I took it home Friday night, and it looked nice sitting in my house. But we have a trophy case here at the school, and I guess that's where it'll end up. Maybe I'll be able to get it for the banquet and get some more pictures with it. Check
it out like the library card. You know, it's just like I'm checking out the trophy, and you leave a piece of paper that says, "Will return at this particular time," you know, all that kind of thing. What was when you look back at the game in and of itself, we all know that it was a really interesting contrast of styles between GMC Prep and Atkinson County. Atkinson County likes to run at 78 RPMs, and that's a reference that only a certain demographic can understand. When it comes to it's called a turntable and an album, and you have certain speeds that you can run the album at. This is the highest speed that you can run an album at when it's on a turntable, for those of you that may not have them. Yes, turntable vinyl albums. They are making a comeback. Atco thrives in chaos, and it's basically trying to grab a comet by the tail or, you know, water in an open hand. But I thought that your defense, being what it was and as disciplined as it is, made sure that chaos only reached a certain point, and then it was kind of like banging on a door or a wall, and they weren't able to get through it. What were you seeing from the touchline?
I think that's a good way to put it. Our MO, really in the playoffs, but all season, is to dictate the way we want the game to go early. I forget what the percentage is, and I've spoke about this, and maybe I should just look up the percentage. And my favorite team is Liverpool, and Klopp said that if you in 10 minutes can go full press, full speed, and get an early goal, whatever the percent is, you win the game. And even if you don't get that goal, you put the other team on the back foot, right? And you dictate how you want to play the game, because ultimately we both have what we think is going to happen, what we want to happen. But if you can dictate, this is our style and this is what's going to happen, you have, at least till you get to the break, to halftime, you can kind of dictate the game, which I actually think that's what happened. Atkinson, well coached, great players, made their halftime adjustments. I've also said this many times. I'm glad I don't have to analyze this game, because I thought our second half was not great. But they made their adjustments. They came at us for 40 minutes. And, yeah, our defense, I said several times, they're out of ideas, guys. They're out of ideas. If our defense can hold steady, our keeper played great. Gavin, our six, winning those duels out of the air. We had one slip up there to give up that goal. And I knew that they were going to try to make it hectic. And it's one of the few scouting points I had was they're going to get the crowd involved. They're going to cheer for tackles. They're going to, get into the refs. The crowd is going to get onto the ref and cause the chaos. I wish we could have held our heads a little bit better. But ultimately, it doesn't matter how you win the last game. Win the last game.
Because you now have a trophy in a trophy case that you can flash around campus now. I was going to ask specifically about the trophy, and you kind of answered it where I didn't know if you lost track of it, how many folks got to touch it. Is it like the Stanley Cup where everybody gets a moment with it? You kind of answered that question, but did you keep your eye on it the whole time when you were leaving Thomaston?
I thought we broke it at one point. My keeper had it, and somebody threw him a Gatorade, and he decided to try to catch it with the trophy. Wow. The bottom is very solid, but yeah, it made it home somehow. It got a little bit rowdy in the locker room. That's when you have your real celebration, without everybody there and people can let loose a little bit. And I was told by a bunch of my middle school students they saw me dancing on TikTok with the trophy, so that's great. Didn't know about that until Monday, but yeah, we made it home with it somehow.
I'm going to have to investigate this with you on the TikToks. When I mentioned this group of seniors on the whole, and there's a lot of them, what sticks in your head about this group that finishes their careers there at GMC Prep on the high school side with a championship?
All the stress and anxiety that I think I was having ultimately was not anything about me. It was about these seniors. They deserved it. They played for 3 state titles. Some of them were in 10th grade, starters and important, quote unquote, to that team. This year, it was their team. And it wasn't just this year. It was a culmination of since they were 8, 9, 10 years old, the work, the windshield time their parents put in, the Sunday sessions with Coach Sam, one of our club coaches, working on technical skills. It really has very little, in my opinion, to do with like this year. I think it's what makes a lot of high school clubs successful. The difference between us and a bigger classification is all our kids play club together. And for good or for worse, for better or for worse, like they're brothers. They argue like brothers, but they also know everything that everybody's going to do. They know their tendencies. And I think that will also, it's really special because they'll be able to be friends for life with this and have this forever. And whether, I got a couple playing in college here at GMC that I get to go see. Some may go off to their bigger schools and play club soccer there, and some may just play, pickup or Sunday league or whatever. But they'll always have this together, and that's cool to me. I'm glad they got it done. They, like I said, they deserve it. 8 of them played in 8th grade, and that's the biggest 8th grade class, obviously. And the reason why those 8 got to play in 8th grade is ultimately because what they ended up doing in 10th and 12th grade. They were a golden generation, so to speak.
So you mentioned that. What did you learn about yourself as a head coach this year?
Man, that is a great that we could be here all day.
Sorry about that.
No, it's weird. Very rarely, I'm sure, do you get thrown to the fire like I did this year. The pressure that people accidentally put on me, and I know they meant well about, man, you're going to win a state title in your first year, man. Like, just keep them together, like blah, 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 That's really easy to say in the summertime or September, October, November. But at that Creek Cup, I mean, I left there really unsure of myself.
I remember.
Ultimately, we lost 2 games. Islands dominated the 3A state title. Tallulah looks like they have a really good chance to win their classification in GIA. That was the start of me learning, right? That was the start of learning how to lose and how to recover and how to fix mistakes, and go into penalties with a couple of these other teams that we may or may not have should have went to penalties with, but getting those wins helped me deal with that kind of stuff. And to that, really hard on myself, really unsure of myself, but learning how to compartmentalize things, writing my thoughts down, talking to those around me, like Bobby, about how did you feel in this situation? Like, it was all just an experience for me, which is crazy to think about that. Like, I got to the pinnacle this early, but it was an experience that next time around, like, I'm not going to say that I won't be stressed, obviously. And that's one thing Bobby told me. He coached high school for 14 years, won 3 state titles. And he's like, still didn't sleep on the 14th year, like, you still don't sleep much. You still go through every little detail, but like, will that be a little bit easier? And my other, we're not assistant head coach. We're both co-coaches, because we both work for the school. We're both just as qualified, but Coach Brent, he was first year too. He coached middle school last year. And, one of his comments is, I did not know this meant this much, and for us to just go through this together, and just, I don't know, just everything was so new to both of us. At least I was an assistant coach. He was fresh. Your middle school season ends and you just get to go to the playoff games. So yeah, it was a huge learning experience. Going through preseason, I mean, there's so much, man. There's so much. Like, what preseason looked like this year? What would I change? What did the practices look like? Stuff logistical, like uniform, like, it's just crazy. Everything was so new.
So when you look back at this, what is the most important thing in your mind about high school soccer in the state of Georgia?
What it means to the kids that play it. That's it. Like, you and I spoke for 30 seconds before we started. These kids can go play the highest level of club soccer. They can be told that they're great. They're the next this. They're the next that. And I hope they are. I really hope that they are. But the amount of just Instagram posts I've been seeing my friends post, and then the teammates are commenting on each other's stuff and how much I'm going to miss you and how fun this was. And you walk through the school. Yesterday, I was at a graduation ceremony, and the amount of people that stopped me, that whether I knew that they were watching or not. And I'm just imagining what the kids are going through. Like, all their peers get to tell them how cool that is, and they get to show up to school the next day and everybody tell you congratulations. I love club soccer. It's a huge part of why all these high school teams are successful, I believe. But what kids telling them, hey, good job on that win in Gainesville, Georgia this weekend, like against blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, their parents are coming, but we had so many kids come and paint their chest the other day. It's insane. So what it means to the kids is the most special thing.
As always, my friend, it's great to catch up with you. And it was really cool for me to be able to call the match with Luke Winstall over at NFHS Network. And, we're going to be knocking on your door sooner than you know it, because it's like, what do you do for an encore, right? And it just continues to roll through. I can't thank you enough for being an ambassador down there for us and letting us into the locker room and the day-to-day, starting with Creek Cup, working all the way through beginning to end. And like I said, it's great to see you. We're going to be knocking on your door pretty soon. Continue with your day in proper hydration as a coach and a teacher. We'll see you soon, my friend. It's great to see you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good to see you.
All right, Dustin Jeanette, the head coach at GMC Prep. So we go from one champ to the next. One champ to the next. And for this one, we go to Holy Innocents and catch up with Clayton Schmidt and find out what's going on. How does it feel, sir?
Yeah, fantastic. We competed really well, and overall, just like it's not as much like a relief as it's like a feeling of validation, to come through and be able to, you know, especially get a result against someone that had beaten us earlier in the year. So um, from that perspective, like really validating, self-satisfying, and it's been a fantastic week since then to enjoy and relish and look back on those memories already.
Where is the trophy, by the way?
It is up in our athletic suite at the high school right now, where since that happened in a span of 24 hours, the boys track and field won a state title, and then we had golf win one. Baseball is in the finals, and I think girls tennis won as well. So it's been a pretty epic run for the school, certainly above and beyond just soccer.
Because the reason I ask is because there are always those legends that we hear, whether it's a Stanley Cup final in the National Hockey League, where you get the day with the trophy and you get to kind of do whatever you want. The trophy comes back dinged, but that's part of the allure of the trophy. I didn't know if you got to keep your eye on it the entire time, if players and coaches wandered off with it and you lost track of it and you had to put a GPS device on it to get it back to you. I didn't know what the celebration was like afterwards, and if it was lost track of, or if you had your eyes on it locked in the entire time.
No, we babysat him exclusively until we got him back to the school. So there may or may not have been uh, some unwilling participation in the post-match festivities among our staff with the trophy, but it was kept under strict watch the entire time.
When you look back at this season, what did you learn about yourself as a coach this year?
I think to be flexible, and then also tactically and personally, as well as to sit here and be like very introspective in terms of our successes and measuring what was a really good start to the season. Um, we'd say some hiccups along the way, but learning that, okay, how can I maintain kind of some objectivity here of, all right, we're playing really well, we're creating a ton of chances, like the metrics say we're doing incredibly well, but same time, it didn't quite feel like it was the right formula for us to be successful and be able to lift the trophy in the end. So, from that perspective, it was ensuring that we reviewed, assessed, and then, any idea that we had to try, we would at least explore it as a staff, and then see if it was valid or worth continuing or not. So, but we had to definitely think a lot deeper and revisit things constantly to make sure that, hey, is this really going to work? And is this going to work in, excuse me, in April and May when, the season's on the line?
When I mentioned the group of seniors that went on this journey with you, what sticks in your head about that group?
Yeah, I think for each of them, the three seniors that we had, um, all competed at a really high level for club soccer, but it was interesting that they're actually none of them started at Holy Innocents and all matriculated over at various points for their high school career. And for us, it's like it's kind of the same way we'd look at it when you get transfers at the college level. But when you're able to bring in someone that's got different set of experiences and um, unique traits, that like I think that adds to any team or group dynamic in a way that can be really beneficial. That they take like for us, the majority of our players still have gone through HI for middle or elementary school, but to be able to add some that came in with other experiences, I think was able to really provide something different. But there's nothing wrong with a homogenous group, certainly, but at the same time, that they brought a lot of different competitive experiences in, and we're came in just after the prior group had left that had won, and for them to be able to come in and reestablish the culture there was really positive. So that that they weren't like the most outspoken, certainly, group of seniors, but that along the way, I knew that they were going to be as special as any that we had, and certainly their record reflects that. I think they've only lost 15 times maybe in their 4 years, so a pretty solid mark that they've left on the program, certainly.
You get to see the sport here in the state of Georgia and, frankly, the pretty much east of the Mississippi on a bunch of different levels with your time at Emory, with your time at Holy Innocents. I've got a couple of questions that are tied to that, and specifically tied to your time at Holy Innocents. What has it been like to see the sport grow or continue to be this juggernaut there in the Holy Innocents community since you first walked in the door as a coach? What has it been like for you to see Holy Innocents be what it is on the high school side of things here in the state of Georgia?
Yeah, I think that was the allure initially that brought me to the school back in the 14-15 school year. So it was, I'd competed both at, I had several years under my belt already in college, and then I'd come off a couple of really successful seasons at other programs. And I think what appealed was like the potential, the resources, then the commitment to be willing to not have to cut corners, to ensure that a really or a deep and talented program was not put in a position where they had to sacrifice for the expense of a coach. So, and then it kind of has snowballed over that time, and that we go to now where we've got myself and then 3 other assistant coaches that all have exhaustive experience at club, high school, and the collegiate level, and just like the support for the program at the school, as year in, year out. We went from being a very good private school, and then a couple years later competing in Final Four and for finals, and then have been able to really sustain that since 2020 and 2021, and I think get better and deeper each year. So this like overall the buy-in from the school and the community has been fantastic, and that part is the most enjoyable to be able to see and enjoy. As a coach and a person that's been associated with the program for over a decade.
So specifically dealing with the high school aspect, considering that you have the knowledge base of university and club, when it comes to the high school part of things, what do you think the most important thing about high school soccer in the state of Georgia is?
Yeah, I thought the article you guys pushed out recently encapsulated it really well. Like, this is a really unique environment, and that it blends at the highest level, elite competitive players and a sense of, pride and school spirit, and, like a direct link to, right, a bigger organization, above and beyond, one that you represent maybe 2 to 4 times a week at the club level. So it gives, friends, family, and everyone an opportunity to support something that is exciting. It's fun to watch, and especially if you have really good players and you're able to play a style that's entertaining and attractive. Our emphasis is that we want to get the ball on the ground and we want to play forward very quickly, and then how can we be dynamic in the attack? And I think that adds as well to, kind of a buy-in and an enjoyment where, it's not going to watch some or a game where it's just going to be ball out of bounds constantly, people just whacking it up the field the whole time. Like the per se uglier side of things, it could still be certainly effective and win. But I think it's something that that you're getting a really good product, for a casual person to come and enjoy, as well as from the school perspective, to be a part of a small school, but still have such incredible buy-in from the community and the families and the support that we get. And then whether or not the players go on to continue to play at the next level, they have that 4 years of competing deep in the playoffs each year that makes it so meaningful for them. And then for us, the rewarding part as coaches, when we go and play in another final like we did this year, we had quite a few of our recent alumni that have all experienced a lot of success come back and watch us, and then be able to share that with them afterwards. I think that's the part that is so difficult to replicate at a club environment, which still prepares players at an elite level. But those are the kind of bonds and memories that that give you positive feelings for what you experience, and then continuing to be able to experience that as an alum of the school, as a supporter, family member, friend, anything like that.
Clayton Schmidt, the head coach at Holy Innocents, hanging out with us for another couple of minutes, breaking down the season and some of the questions that we put out into the ether when it comes to the game in and of itself. I know that in each of the levels that you touch, there are those programs, and this is probably more geared toward high school. There are those programs that are still trying to find their way. They're still trying to grow and be a part of the beautiful game as best they can. But they're having problems getting that first win, having a roster that's gauging the true interest of the school. Might have 12, 13, 14 student athletes that are there trying to find that first win. They're really grinding. First region title, all of the miles. It just gets burdensome and tiresome at points. For those programs that are struggling or new and trying to find their way to be a part of the growth of the game, what advice would you give to those programs that are trying to take those first steps? And it might look like a newborn colt, but if you kind of apply certain things, then you'll be fine over time. What advice would you give those young programs that are trying to find their way?
Yeah, I think that I've definitely been in those shoes a while ago now, but I think the key is, day in and day out is, try to keep the end in mind, and making sure that, you can celebrate small things along the way, but that know that, anytime you start out that you're going to have some ups and downs, and it's okay, and I think as a younger coach, in the regular season, if I lost, a game or two, I'd get really upset and, be kind of down and moping, like, what did we do wrong here? You get really frustrated. But in reality, like the beauty of that is that, there's 17 other games that you still have an opportunity to play and make an impact in, and I think the biggest part is not to ever get, too high or too low within the season, and make sure that, you're steadfast in your desire to work hard, to learn, right? Assess yourself, assess your players, and then I think just being candid with that group of players as you're trying to build something, because they ultimately are the ones that become the initial wave of success, and then they have to then kind of empower and equip the next group of players that come in from younger classes, and help them learn, hey, it wasn't always lollipops or rainbows around here, and we need to be able to know that there were times that we were struggling just to get wins or just to make the region tournament or just to make the playoffs. I think that's the one thing that I, looking back, never have lost sight of, is that, like, remember that you weren't always in this position where it was an expectation to win every year, and start with small goals though, and I think that's a big key. Above and beyond that, I would say is, try to be able to be receptive to what other programs are doing and make connections, network, whether it's locally at other games or nationally at, like, coaches symposiums and conventions. Try to find out what people are doing that have been really successful along the way. I know that I've developed, like you mentioned, the different kind of networks and places that I've been able to grow professionally, is try to cultivate, network, and build meaningful relationships with each and every one. And just to paint that picture, um, Glenn from Wesleyan, we played in the final. Glenn and I met in, I believe it was 2012, and we were coaching at two different schools in Fulton County at the time. So, but just being able to then see him weave his own path and come back, and he's got Wesleyan cooking as one of the best teams in our classification over the last couple of years as well, is always great to see. And then when you bring in, schools from other areas that plug into your region, you get to know those coaches, you wish them success, and make sure that, if there's ever anything that you could do to help them out, that you're there as a resource, because everyone's going at a different pace and a different place in their own journeys, coaching wise. And you want to make sure that, once you've had a modicum of success, that, anytime someone's candid, wants your feedback, or just to, to get to know you and see what you did, like, always be receptive to those moments, and, ensure that there's nobody that is, too too small or too important for you along the way to give your time and advice to. So, because at the end of the day, like we all want to leave a legacy, and a bigger part of that is in the like you all try to do to grow the bigger picture of the game and its foothold, and then the more lives that you impact positively through your relationships in soccer. I think the better the future is for the sport here and globally as well.
Is there one thing that you would change or update in the state of Georgia when it comes to the high school game?
I think it's still, no matter what you're doing, really hard um, when you're balancing out like the time that players get between their club and then spring high school seasons. And I think that that there's like a huge rush to get started, with like off-season conditioning programs and um, trying to do fitness after school, and then that coincides usually with the latter part of the club season in the fall and showcases and tournaments, events, league games that are being made up at later dates, um, college ID camps for players that are trying to go kind of in that sandwich period between the semesters, and then just it's really hard and physiologically we see a big toll. And for us this year did a little bit of different prep at the school level to try to help the players that all of them are fortunate enough to play at a meaningful club level, to make sure that we don't overextend them too early, and then trying different training methodologies to prepare in the preseason. When you have a certain number of days to prepare for things, what's the best way to do it without, burning out too quickly? And then you're still going to have some overlap there in January with other like club events and programs and showcases, and making sure that you're kind of keeping an eye on everyone's loads, like not just physiologically, but mentally. Like if there's an ECNL showcase, and then you're out from school on a Friday to play Saturday, Sunday, Monday, back that night, to roll back into practice Tuesday, to sit there and think that player is going to be able to compete at the level that um, is their like optimal performance, is I think a little bit naive. And just being able to manage that as well, and kind of protect them from themselves sometimes, in that sense of you get right into it, you're like, oh, we got our first game in a couple weeks, we got to be fit, but know that, hey, that this is just a step along the journey along this season, whatever that'll end up being, and like it's okay that you know we don't need to run you into the ground right off the bat here, but um, there's never going to be a perfect system or solution. I think that the GHSA has at least listened to trying to find a better way to balance the calendar, and started a little bit later this year than they had in years past. So that I think is a good positive step. Um, but I think across the board, we just want to find a way to balance these two calendars. And unfortunately, as we see with different club entities, or, different entities within the NCAA, and then in high school, it's going to come down to, administratively, what makes the most sense to the people in power. And that's not, unfortunately, always aligned with those that are on the ground, either in the coaching or playing environments, um, to maximize what's best for both parties. So they're just going to be self-interested in the end, and we do the best that we can with that. But I do think that at least they've been receptive to hearing changes, and this kind of community of coaches that you all support. We're in a good place to be able to bounce things off each other and find ways to balance out those early season conflicts as best as we can.
I can't thank you enough this season for being one of our resources, and being able to reach out and catch up with you. And thanks for everything during the playoffs and the championships to help us out with our coverage as well, and being able to catch up with you on this version of you, because we know the university version of you, and we'll be catching up with that one fairly quickly, I'm pretty sure. Can't thank you for everything this season, and congratulations once again winning the last game of the year. We know that we'll be catching up with you really soon, Clayton. Good to see you, my friend.
All right, John, thanks so much. Take care.
You bet. There goes Clayton Schmidt, head coach at Holy Innocents, after knocking off Wesley and getting a state championship there. Now, it is time to turn a little bit, and we're going to talk about women's soccer. We're going to talk about Decatur FC, because they have something going on called a season premiere, season opener. and it is tomorrow night, Decatur High School, as the WPSL gets off and running. Time to catch up with the GM of Decatur FC, Joel Gould. And so, Joel, what is up? How are you? Okay, I can't hear you. Let's see if we could check an internal setting or something. I've got your lower third, but I don't hear you. So I don't know. Like I said, me and technology are never really good friends. So there. Oh, hey, there he is.
All right.
There it is.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You're off and
All
running,
right.
and you look solid.
All right, fantastic.
So I know that today is a day where you're doing media day and you're running around and trying to let everybody know what's going on about Decatur FC. So we figured we would take this opportunity to catch up with you and find out everything about Decatur FC.
Yeah.
Going back to last year, what did you learn as a franchise about yourself getting ready to be a franchise and the league and everything? What'd you learn last year?
So I think, one of the biggest things we probably learned is that, we have something pretty sustainable here, right? We had a pretty big first year in 2024, and, we were, a little, certainly hopefully optimistic that, all the momentum we gained in 2024 would continue in 2025. Were we a one-hit wonder kind of thing? And obviously, our hope was confirmed. We had a huge and record turnouts in 2025. And so it really kind of let us know that, okay, we've got something here, right? And, we began to put better processes in place. We started to run it much more like a business than kind of a, more than just a handful of friends and volunteers trying to do something fun on the weekends. And so I think the biggest learning from last year was, all right, one, we're really good on the field. We were 8-0 last year, won the Southeastern Conference, number 1 in the South, 3rd in the nation. That's been going fantastic. And then we started, kind of looking at it organizationally of, all right, how do we build kind of the front office and the staff and kind of run this more professionally than we did the first year.
Then I guess leaving 25, how much time did you give yourself to breathe before you started planning on 26? Or was it like a day and a half? You sit there and go, nope, we got a thing. We got to go. We got a boogie here. How much learning time did you give yourself to plan and start planning for 26, which starts on the field tomorrow?
Yeah. So I think it was, we did kind of initial debriefs for the next few weeks of, what did we do? How did it work? What can we apply next year? And, so we collected all that data. I mean, kind of the underside of the, these kind of leagues is, it's really hard to employ staff from a 12-month perspective, right? Just by nature of kind of the way the league is set up. And so, I maintained throughout the year and kind of built relationships with organizations and sponsorships and kind of did some of the planning as we went forward. And then we really get, this year we kind of had staff from March, April, May, and June, right? And so, but, it's a little bit of repeat and play, but also added, how can we do better? How can we build it bigger? How can we reach more people, better fan engagement, all of those kind of things we're always looking at.
When it comes to the WPSL, for someone who hasn't jumped in to see the product, how would you sit there and say, outside of what Decatur does, on the field, which is gangbusters, and if you go to a game at Decatur FC, basically you better go early because you got to find a place to park, and that's a good problem to have, right? In downtown Decatur. How would you describe what sets the WPSL apart and at the same time makes it a part of a very successful ecosystem when it comes to soccer here in the U.S.?
So, the WPSL is growing. I mean, it's the oldest women's league in the country. There's 160 teams now. They are working very, very hard as an organization to not remain in kind of the tier 4 status. I think by 2028, we will see WPSL Pro in either tier 2 or tier 3. I think they're working with US Soccer right now to figure that out. WPSL is doing everything they can to kind of complete that path on the women's soccer side. Right now you kind of, you leave college and you're either going to have to go to NWSL or USLS or go internationally, right? There's nothing much between that. And so the WPSL is working really hard to kind of help that path, right? And so is US Soccer. Everybody is. And so I think that's part of what sets the WPSL aside from other leagues that are happening. I think from our perspective, we're just super lucky that we live in the city of Decatur, right? And there's such a soccer craziness here, such a super high soccer intelligence. And I think that's what draws our fans to our game. The soccer on the field is great soccer. We do a lot of stuff around the event, from, tailgating on the square to marches to the stadium. We put a lot of time and effort of, if I'm being completely honest, how do we replicate what Atlanta United does from a fan perspective, right? Being welcomed into the stadium. How do we, live national anthem, opening ceremonies, certainly, you and Drew on our live stream broadcast. All of this kind of, helps us kind of create this excitement around the women's soccer in Decatur.
When you look at how things have grown and evolved, and you look at where Decatur FC is right now, has there been anything that has surprised you and the front office when it comes to either assembly of the franchise on the whole, getting the talent to come in so you can be that top team that is chasing after championships? Has there been something that either surprised you in a good way or a bad way? Was there a wake-up call along the way of, we got to really buckle down and do A, B, C, D, or E here so we can be as successful as we want? Have there been surprises, either good, bad, or both?
Yeah, I think there's probably been both, right? The success was a little bit of a surprise. Starting to run it like a business, and then I think there's a lot of learnings in that, right? So much of the first year was handshakes and thank yous, and we appreciate that. The second year we started getting into, all right, we should probably have an agreement with that sponsor, or we should probably have something more than a handshake from the athletic director or the superintendent of the school system and things like that. So we really spent a lot of time doing that. In the third year, it's just non-negotiable. All those things are in place, as we look kind of at the future and, what we want to do in the future. I think one of the hardest parts is when you talk to people in Decatur, there's so much excitement. Everybody knows about it. And we're starting to branch out a little beyond that. But when you start to get a bigger picture and start to try to get the bigger sponsors or reach out to a bigger fan base, it's hard. We're finding it much harder to get to kind of that big regional or small national sponsorship level. They to some degree, because we're not a professional team, we're still looked at, oh, that's a really neat thing happening, with the girls team in Decatur. Yeah. And so, we've spent a lot of time reaching out to people, a lot of time building the story around who we are and trying to convince them that, right now, I think we're second in attendance for all women's professional sports in Georgia, just behind the Dream on an average home game attendance basis, which is huge. And so trying to get that message through to bigger sponsors and bigger activations has been tougher than I would have anticipated. And
you're doing this with a target on your back on the field. Mm-hmm. How hard is it to keep the talent that you've assembled and found? And it's like, yeah, we want you to come back. And then, hey, this opportunity's over here. This opportunity's over here. Other teams from the WPSL might be sitting there going, ooh, we like that player. That might fit over here. Now with the reputation that you've set, it might be, as I would imagine, it's that much more difficult to find/retain the talent that you've got that got you to where you are.
Yeah. So I think from a recruiting perspective, one of the best things we have is, all of our players have had such a great experience with us that they go back to their colleges and they say, just played in front of 2,000 people. We signed autographs for 45 minutes after the game. We were treated very well. Coaching was fantastic. Athletic training was fantastic. Anything we needed, we were providing for them. And so their players are like, wow, that sounds great. I want to do that. Right. So, a lot of our players do our heavy lifting in recruiting. obvious Coach Campbell and the players that play for him at GSA is a huge part of this. We right now, John, we have 5 generations of soccer players playing on Decatur FC on this team for Decatur FC. So 5 generations of Georgia soccer players from 2003s to 2008s. And it's amazing. We have 14 returners. We have 3 graduating seniors who are coming back to play for us this summer. One of them who's got some great news we're going to share in the coming weeks, I think. And so we're getting the talent back, and we're getting people reaching out to us all the time. We're even getting a handful of players from some of the other teams in the local area who will now come and play for us. What I will tell you, though, what's happened in the past 2 years, and we're seeing it across all of our teams, Georgia Impact, AFU, UFA, we are raising the bar and they are meeting it. I mean, the players that they're getting right now are big time players as well. And so there's going to be some great competition this summer. And I'll show you the best example of that. When we went to put schedules together this season, because some of our conference realignment, no one will schedule games, until after June, because everybody, if you lose once, you're probably not going to win the conference championship. And so everyone's like, we need that extra week and a half for practice. And so, everybody is really focused on winning in a high level of competition. So it's fantastic. It's good for everybody. It's good for us. It's good for the league and for the fans.
What is is there such a thing as a WPSL owners front office meeting, or is it kind of virtual, or how does that work?
So we meet we actually met in Dallas this year. Typically it's been in Oklahoma where the league headquarters is. Okay. And we meet once a year. We talk about from a league perspective of, learnings from other teams. How can we do this better? How can we all do this kind of new guidelines and things like that. We talk about a lot about what's happening in the NCAA and how that impacts our league towards the end of the season. And then we all sit, it's kind of old school. We all literally sit around a table with pens and papers and create a schedule. All the teams sit at one table and you kind of knock it out, and that's how it goes. So.
Is it literally like 100? Well, it might not be 160 considering your region and everything, but when you have your all hands on deck, is it literally like 160 people in a room or in a conference center and sharing ideas or anything like that? How big are we talking here?
Oh, I mean, it's more than 160. I mean, it's got to be 200 or 300 folks. And,
oh, wow.
And I mean, look, they do an incredible job. The WPSL, I mean, they just understand women's soccer and building this league. We have great speakers from U.S. Soccer coming in, talking about what's happening in U.S. Soccer, what they're doing to build a better path for women's soccer. It's fantastic. I mean, the leadership of the WPSL is fantastic.
Because the reason I ask is I didn't know what the sharing of ideas was like. Obviously, in this particular footprint where you have all of these teams chasing after championships, and that is the stated goal, is that you are going to, knock each other around and prove that this is one of the toughest regions in the country. I didn't know if there was still, sharing of ideas outside of this footprint with the other owners and things like that to go, well, so you're successful here. What are you doing? I didn't know how deep those conversations went outside the Southeastern United States. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, no, they definitely do within the WPSL, but I'll even take it out of the confines of that. I mean, I spend a lot of my days reaching out to other teams who what I feel are 2 or 3 years ahead of us in the cycle, John. Like, talking to their GMs, tell me what I don't know. Tell me what you wish you knew 2 years ago. So, I'm trying to lower that learning curve and for our team and our staff. And everybody has been fantastic. I've never met anybody, to be honest with you, that I've asked a question to and said, yeah, that's our secret sauce. I'm not telling you. And we try to replicate that with anybody that reaches out to us. And what I would say is specifically in the Southeast Conference, it doesn't matter what team, like we all want this to be big, and we can have those conversations offline and phone calls and emails, and then really save, kind of the competition for the field and things like that. Everybody knows if we can get better soccer and better, more fans of the game, it's good for everybody.
All right, lay out game day for me, because it's going to be everything that we've been discussing. It is going to be from O'Sullivan's. Everybody marches downhill. Hopefully you might have parked downhill, because after the match and you've got to go back uphill to where you parked. That man is a quarter mile that, after a hot match and you being a fan out there, that walk back up toward the courthouse, that can get to you. Lay it out for everybody where it comes to Decatur FC and what game day is going to be like tomorrow.
Yeah, so we're excited, and we're equally optimistic that all the rain will hold off for us. We're going to have an incredible game against Tennessee United. So we'll start on the square. About 5 people will start tailgating on the square. Activities with the kids and some. And then right around. Oh, all right, there we go. Oh,
yeah, there you are.
All right, right around 6:15ish, we'll start doing some chant practice, and then 6:30 we'll start the walk to the stadium, and opening ceremonies at 7. We have some live national anthem singers. We use a lot of the children from our Path to the Pitch program, our Wednesday Night Light program. They'll come and do player escorts and walk out with the players. It's just going to be a great night. And 2 things, I would tell you that, this is kind of the interesting thing that happens with Decatur FC. I would say, I think last year the stat was somewhere between 70 and 80% of all of our fans walk to the game. I mean, it's very European, right? Mm-hmm. So they're so close. They'll come to the square, they'll walk to the game, they'll walk back. I think we'd all tell you it's worth the walk back up the hill to go back to O'Sullivan's and maybe grab some more refreshment.
Yes.
And so, so that's a huge stat for us, that walkability of Decatur and everything. And so it's an exciting game. There's definitely going to be some great soccer tomorrow night. Tennessee United is a new team to the WPSL. They don't actually start in the league until next year, but they do have a team this year in preparation for it. And so they had reached out asking if we would have a friendly with them. And so obviously, again, just like we talked about, we want to support everybody who's trying to be in the WPSL and support women's soccer. So.
Yep, and the BLTs are deadly at O'Sullivan's. I will vouch for that.
Yeah, I spend way too much time in O'Sullivan's at this point in my life. So yes.
It's as always, when the season kicks off, it's always great to see you, my friend, and break things down. Like I said, I know media days today, and there will be media that will be mediated when it comes to getting ready for the season. So Drew and I will be with you tomorrow, and it'll be great to see you then. Have a great media day, and we'll catch up with you on a Friday, sir. Good to see you.
Thanks so much for all you do for Decatur FC, John. Really appreciate it.
There we go. That's Joe Gould. He's the GM, and he's going to go properly hydrate now. Probably get some breakfast, something at O'Sullivan, something breakfasty. It's going to be like 9,000 calories. It's going to be how it goes. But no, it's always great to catch up with Joel as a part of our coverage when it comes to Decatur FC and lay everything out there. And so once again, tomorrow, if you are in the neighborhood, it is a 7:00-ish start, and it is the friendly with Tennessee United and Decatur FC. So we'll see what it looks like there as the sprint in the WPSL begins before you know it. Okay, opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. And in addition to everything that you have seen here in the first hour, just to remind you, start the day with the most important stories of the game, the right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala, heavy body, notes of walnut and semi-sweet chocolate, and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff powered by Black Pitch Coffee, blackpitchcoffee.com. Just so you know, there's going to be an interview coming up with Jason and Dimitrios Efstathiou. And for us to be able to catch up with Dimitrios, who is Senior VP of Strategy for AMBS, he reports to Rich McKay, obviously, works alongside Chris Henderson and Chief Business Officer and Senior VP Skate Nossinger on day-to-day operations. And so Dimitrios, as Senior VP of Strategy, got to catch up with Jason about the announcement yesterday of the Uzbek Football Association coming and having a new home for the World Cup, and it's the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Training Ground. Here is part of that interview, and I apologize for the size of the video file. I exported it at the wrong size, but it's the audio that counts. A really cool thing that Dimitrios was able to kind of see grow from this relationship off the top, just a little piece of what to anticipate when the Uzbekistan Football Association comes to the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground to get ready for the 48-team World Cup. Here's a part of that interview.
They're going to be training in the evening.
Right.
Why are they going to be training in the evening? Well, that's because Uzbekistan and the Uzbek national team players are observant Muslims. And their morning prayers would lead them to come and train at a later time in the morning when the sun will be too high. It will be too hot.
Yeah.
So the coaching staff determined that they would prefer to train between the two, the late afternoon and the evening prayers. So they'll train in the evening between essentially the hours of about 5:30 to 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Okay.
And that is something that as a member of the Atlanta community and just as a human, I find really cool that the sport can bring two totally different cultures to play the same sport, but the way they engage with the sport, they're all professional footballers, but the way they engage with the sport is specific to their culture. And I love that. And I love the fact that we're bringing that aspect to our club and our staff to see like, hey, we are bringing the world into our facility, into our club. It's awesome.
And Jason's interview with Dimitrios Efstathiou is going to be posted fairly soon. I believe it's being posted today. If not today, then fairly shortly thereafter. And it was a really cool conversation with the senior VP of strategy for Atlanta United. And obviously, once again, reporting to Rich McKay and working alongside Chris Henderson and Skate Nossinger. It was a really cool conversation because obviously for Dimitrios, knowing who the head coach of the Uzbek Federation is and Fabio Cannavaro, it was an interesting interaction with Dimitrios there with Fabio Cannavaro. He goes into that. They go into the entire discussion about the availability of the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground and what national teams look for and what the process was to have the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground available for national teams for the World Cup coming up. And so Dimitrios and Jason, they go into the process. They go into what teams were, they go into what FIFA is with all of their grades and their gradients and things like that. And just moments like that that we just gave you with Dimitrios, where you get to have a multicultural activity and it means a lot to everyone that it touches. And so it was a really cool conversation that Jason had with Dimitrios Efstathiou. And so keep an eye out on that across all of our platforms when it comes to everything SDH. So very, very cool stuff there. All right, let me say hi to everybody before Nino and Niko come in and join us. It is morning, David, morning, Ricky, and morning to everyone that is on the Twitch pitch. Nino Torres set to join us coming up around the corner. It is Nico Moreno joining us at 10:30, Chris Doran joining us at 11 o'clock. Then we have all of our news and things to get into when it comes to the day and the morning. And yes, Ricky, we will be discussing upping the Villa and what it was like for them when it came to knocking off Freiburg to get a title yesterday. So it is after 10 o'clock, and it is time to go down to Peru. And I don't know if we're allowed to talk about Copas or not, considering a goalless draw that happened last night. So we bring in our buddy Nino Torres. Yellow, yellow, yellow. What is up, my friend? Time to go fully loaded, yeah?
Yes, sir. Yellow, yellow, yellow. So down here, fans, Nino Torres with you on this marvelous Thursday. We're absolutely loaded with the stories. I got the World Cup Chronicle. It's just massive, man. It's just massive. Wow. Just stay tuned, guys. Stay tuned.
Yes, what he said. Like I said, I was watching Libertadores and Sudamericana last night with all of the things. And, well, like I said, we'll get into that. And I apologize ahead of time for your goalless draw. You got to see the season in Portugal evolve the way that it did. And it was interesting on a bunch of different levels. It is continuing to be interesting after the season is over because of one coach heading to his new gig that is an old gig that is now going to be a new gig, apparently, possibly, probably, maybe, we're sure. When you look back at this season in the Liga de Portugal, what sticks in your head?
And that I was wrong. I was wrong with my prediction for the season because I thought that Sporting was going to get the repeat. But I did not count on the massive signings that Porto got done prior to the start of the season. They definitely understood what they needed to get, and they went ahead and got the best defenders possible that a team could get in Portugal. Getting, and as a result, as an outcome, it ended up being the best defense in the league with Bednarek and Kivior. But also it's the return. It's the return of Porto to the top after 3 years being watching, on TV how Sporting crowned it 2 times. Then got another victory from Benfica. But the issue with Porto is that in that span of 3 years of no titles for the Dragons, it seemed like they lost their identity. Like we every time, and I call this league for 7 years, and every single season, you knew what Porto was about. You knew how Porto was going to play. You knew that. There was a DNA. There was a style of soccer that it just in those 3 years, it seemed to disappear. Kind of like these guys right here. You see these guys, yeah. My team, and maybe that's why I got a special bond with the Porto style, because they are relentless, they're resilient. This is blue collar soccer, and they're no shiny, they're no fancy, they're no don't see nutmegs. You see a unit of Spartans going after you and try to beat him. That's what Porto is, and that's what University of Porto is, and maybe that's why I got a feeling for the Dragons, and I'm so happy that they got title done with 2 games on hand. Yeah, it was just brutal, and they're back, and the coach is not going anywhere. They got a solid coach. They got the academy players with Rodrigo Mora, with Will Gomez, you got at least 4-5 players. They're coming from the academy for next season in Portugal, and I just watch Porto next season too, guys, because Porto is just only gonna get better from now. They are just gonna get better. That's it.
Okay, I have stumbled across in my searches a Liga Portugal team of the season. I have 11 dudes that are right.
Go ahead. Tell me how many Porto guys are in defense.
Well, Diogo Costa in net.
Yeah.
Bednarek at center back.
Mm-hmm.
Froholt in the midfield.
Yes.
And so that would be that is one version. So it was 3 of the 11 are Porto. You have Lorazabal from Casapia at right back. You've got Gonçalo Inácio from Sporting, along with Maxi Araujo and Morten Hjulmand in center backs in midfield. You've got Gustavo Sá from Famalicão in the midfield.
Gustavito Sá, I like him, man. I like him a lot.
Salazar from Braga as your attacking mid.
Who, by the way, was signed by Sporting right away. As soon as the season ended, they got Salazar, and there was a massive signing for Sporting.
Winger Sheldrup from Benfica, and at striker Luis Suarez from Sporting.
That's the thing, right? You go up on this best 11, and you did not find any single player from Porto playing on top. And that's just the remarkable part also from Porto, because they lost their striker, they lost Samu, then they lost Luke de Jong, and then we're playing with Dennis Gould, who only scored 5 goals in the season. 5 goals this season. All right. And yet they won the title without the power of the strikers. Because the goals were coming from Froholt, coming from Alberto Costa, coming from Bednarek, from Kivior, from everyone. from everywhere. It was just a solid unit that you can get snipers from every single side of the pitch, not just relying on your strikers, because they knew that they lost the starting striker, the backup striker, and the third guy. Yeah, okay, we're gonna play with you maybe a little bit better too, which is gonna rely on goals coming from someone else, not just from Dennis Gould. By the way, that probably he's not gonna be staying with Porto for another season.
Topic number 2. Alejandro Dominguez or Alejandro Soprano? Please explain yourself, sir.
You heard the story? No,
I have not. That's why I'm like, okay, please explain yourself.
So, remember a few years back when the FBI, got into a raid and got several FIFA executives because of this corruption scandal, right?
Yes, I remember that.
So they were, they were talking about lots of millions of dollars. And okay, that was that. They got everybody got in jail. Got to Switzerland, and then got to Blatter because he's still in his small tiny village in Switzerland. So he cannot be touched.
Oh, this dude. Yeah, go. Keep talking.
Yeah, okay. So there was a lot of money involved in this thing, right? And the investigation, kept on going. And in CONMEBOL, they were trying to recover, several $1 million. Several. I don't know. I think it's it was like 50 or something. Yeah. Right. And so CONMEBOL was like, all right, we're gonna take care of these guys. We're gonna help you out, FIFA. We're gonna help you out. All right, we're gonna recover money for you. Mm-hmm. Okay. A couple of days ago, on the New York Times, I forgot the name of the reporter, came up with this. Alejandro Dominguez is currently being investigated because there were $5 million that they were. Hey, we're missing $5 million here, by the way, Alejandro. Do you know where they're at? No, I don't. I mean, we recovered the money. We recovered those $5 million. Yeah. I just forgot where did I put it. So
it's like there's 331,000 that is in play that they haven't quite figured. That's like the reimbursal was to that point. There's like 331,000 that is still in the ether someplace.
But take that 350, and there's another 4,700,000 that they're not, on the books. We got 350 on the books, but we're missing 4,700,000. So I don't know, Alejandro Soprano, or well, how do I call you? I don't know, brother, but World Cup is around the corner, and it's a big issue right now with Alejandro Dominguez. There's a cloud. Yes. That guy. And when I saw it, every time that I've seen that guy, it doesn't give me any. I can't pass the crystal of seeing this guy like there's something wrong with you, buddy. I mean, I don't have the proofs or anything. This is just a sense, because I cannot, publicate an accusation to this guy, but this is just an impression. But the numbers are there, and the story is up there, and the investigation is ongoing, and you better come up with that change of 4,700,000 that are missing.
Yes, that needs to come back sometime soon. Yesterday, like I said, big day for Libertadores and Sudamericana, triple headers on BN Sports and all the things. Like I said, I apologize for your goalless draw. I was watching it on purpose so I could see if there was a result. Your lead headline is Nacional and another failure in Libertadores.
Yes, because I want to talk about the other side of the story. The one side, of course, involves, Universitario de Deportes and the first game under Hector Cooper's guidance. Mm-hmm. But the story here is not that, because I know that we want to qualify for the knockout stage. I know we want to beat the Deportes Tolima on Tuesday, and we're going to get that done. But the issues with Nacional, Johnny, the last time that Uruguayan team got deep into the competition was the last two times actually, because semifinals with Peñarol a couple of years ago, and the finals in 2011 when they lost to Santos. That's it since 1988
Wow.
1988 was the last trophy the Uruguayan clubs won internationally. All right, that was the last Copa Libertadores that Nacional lifted with Seré and De Leon and all those guys. It's just, you know, these teams are so big in South America, so big. Among the two, you got 8 Copa Libertadores, Johnny. You got 5 from Peñarol and 3 from Nacional. But that's just all money, brother. All money. I mean, yes, you still live in the mansion, yeah, but I'm sorry, I can't pay the rent, man. I can't pay the electric bill. I can't pay the water. It's just you're the old mansion they live on. It's just so dirty, so dated, and the issue is that there's no solution in the near future for both of them, for Peñarol and Nacional. Okay. And this is also, I mean, but it's more critical for Nacional because, you know, Peñarol still, you know, advances into the knockout stage. But Nacional hasn't qualified to the knockout stage. I forgot when was the last time. I don't recall when was the last time.
Yeah.
But they're not succeeding in the international competition. Not even the Sudamericana, Johnny. And that's something that it needs to be. They need to apply a different method. I don't know what they need to do in Nacional and in the Uruguayan Championship, because they're still producing massive players, spectacular players. They're going to Madrid, to Barcelona, to Liverpool. But the biggest issue with Uruguayan football is that the big guys, Premier League, Liverpool, Barcelona, Real Madrid, they come here and they know that their youth structure is so competitive. All right, because that's what they are. It's so competitive in the youth leagues, you know, under 18, under 17, under 15, under 13. And they got the talent, so they don't let them develop. They cannot develop the young talent in the Uruguayan leagues. When you see a talent in Uruguay, in the Uruguayan top flight division, it lasted just one season. One season, and they're gone at the age of 18, 19. So you don't have players that develop their own league. They made the league stronger. They made the league better. And they made their teams more competitive in the international competition, because they're gone. We're gone to Europe, and you just can't get a hold of any of this talent because they're gone. It's similar what happens when in Portugal. It's similar at a different level. Because also Portugal gets players from Uruguay, and they're the middleman basically between the big guys and the Uruguayan clubs.
Yes.
But, it is a massive failure for Nacional again.
Agents and handlers. I think that's the professional term. They're the agents and the handlers of all of the athletes. To give everybody the update, Group A, Flamengo and Independiente Medellin are going to play next in match day 5. They're at the top of the standings in Group A. Estudiantes is at 6 points. Cusco looks like they are out the door after 5 match days at 0-1-4. The group that we were discussing with Nacional, they've gone through 5 match days. Coquimbo Unido's at 10. Deportivo Tolima's at 7. Universitarios at 5. Same record as Nacional, but you're ahead on goal difference. The dashed line is where folks have to pay attention. Nacional is below said dashed line. You mentioned your friends from Independiente Rivadavia. They are 4 match days in. They're at 10 points. Next match for them is at Deportivo La Guaira. Bolivar and Fluminense are at 5 points. So the 2 and the 3 and the 4 at Group C still kind of there and hovering, but Rivadavia, they're like over here, and everybody else go fight amongst yourselves. Group D, Universidad Católica out of Chile and Barcelona play each other next. Cruzeiro, Boca Juniors, and UC, 8 points and 2 with 7. Barcelona 1-0-3 through their first 4 match days. Yee.
And Johnny, by the way, you mentioned the goal differential. It does not matter on this edition of the Copa Libertadores. It matters the result between the two teams. It doesn't matter the goal differential. It matters if I beat you and we got the same points, I'm going through. You're not going through.
Okay. That is good to know for those of us who are young and watching. Corinthians leads Group E with 10 points. Their next matchup is with Peñarol, who only has 2 points in their first 4 matches. Peñarol might be on their way out the door. Platense has 7 points. Independiente Santa Fe has 5. Group F, Cerro Porteño, 10 points. Palmeiras with 8. Sporting Cristal with 6. Junior below the line with 4. Group G, Mirasol with 12 points. Liga de Quito and Lanús 9 and 6, always ready. Apparently are not. They're 1-0-4, and they only have 3 points. And Group H, Rosario Central and Independiente del Valle. Wow, 13 points, 10 points. UCV with 6, and Libertad 0-for-5. They've given it 12. They've only scored 4. Libertad, they're in a world of hurt right now, and I think they could be eliminated if they lose in match day 6. I think they could. So that is your.
Check the storyline for the Cusco and Deportivo Independiente de Medellin, Johnny. Check the storyline and look at the goals, brother. Look at the goals. It was a wild game in Cusco. So wild, brother. It's 3-2 the score, but check out the time that they scored the goals. Right, it was even until minute 78, 1-1 at the 78th minute, and then after the 90th is where the craziness happened. 90 plus 1, got Baldomero Perlaza, 90 plus 4, Alaid, and then 90 plus 7. Alexis said in the 97th minute to collect the victory out of Cusco. That Cusco, I got expectations on them because they're playing in the altitude and everything, but they lost several players, and they did what they could in this Copa. It was their first Copa Libertadores participation, and it is what it is. But I was expecting something else, just a little bit more from Cusco, a little bit more, right? Maybe not just 1 point.
Yeah.
Maybe 4 points, maybe, right?
Win in the altitude that somebody isn't expecting, yeah.
But then you got to count that you got Flamengo. By the way, that game against Flamengo, come on, guys, come on. I mean, you got all the money in the planet, right? You're showing up on your Porsche. I'm coming out with my Toyota Camry for 1998, and you still want me to what?
Yeah.
There's still games. Flamengo doesn't need to get any advantage, brother. They got 250 million roster. You got a 2.5 million roster here. Please don't take away the points for the poor people, man. Come on. And it happened a lot. And I mean, usually in the group stage, the Brazilian teams are kind of like, we're gonna get there. We're gonna go through. So that's just. We lost 1 game. Okay, whatever. We win the next 3 and we advance. So you don't need that, brother. You don't need that. Please, come on. Don't be that obvious, please. I know you want your Brazilians. Your Brazilians are gonna get to the finals anyway. All right, they're gonna get there. Just let the rest of us, the rest of our mortals, right, to get a chance to at least win a couple of games, man, against you.
Oh man, just because you need to expand it for the TV product. You need to make it more exciting so you get your higher ratings. You can't just be. You want to because not that we would sit there and dictate kind of programming, but you might help your sponsors out a little bit. You might help out your teams a little bit. Might get your viewership up a little bit if you make it a little exciting. I'm not saying that you have to do that, but just I'm saying it, but I'm not saying it. Sometimes games get close all of a sudden. Like you mentioned, the Medellin Cusco match, 90 plus 1, 90 plus 4, 90 plus 7. 3 goals in 6 minutes when it was 1-1 heading into the night.
Beautiful, bro. I know, Johnny. I know it's not the topics, but it's related because the Universitario plays against Nacional, right? And I gotta say this. We were discussing the arrival of Hector Cooper to Universitario. It's probably the most the best coach I ever touched the Liga Uno since forever. And I mentioned this, and that's exactly what happened with this game against Nacional, because I mentioned the experience of Cooper being a national team manager. It came into place perfectly because they got to play 2 finals in the Copa Libertadores against Nacional, against Tolima, and then you got 2 finals in the Apertura to stay up on the top 4 of the table, so you can have a chance to be in the playoffs by the end of the year. So in a couple of days, there's nothing that a coach could do in order to switch the entire formation, or to switch systems, or to change everything. But you gotta make a few decisions that are gonna make the team better, and that's exactly what we did. He made just a couple of adjustments. Instead of getting 1 center mid, I'm gonna get 2. Instead of getting 3 in the back, I'm gonna play 4 in the back, and that's all he did. Just move a couple of pieces, replace a couple of names, and oh my, we're playing better. Jesus, we're playing better. There's something that it's just, sometimes you need a fresh look, right? A fresh look, because this is not working. This is not working. I'm keep doing that. This is not working. And then someone else, oh, what about you move that piece, bro? Oh, click. Oh, click. Oh, now it's working. So I'm not saying that he fixed the team, but it just made the adjustments that we all were watching and witnessing and wondering why in the world you're not making these changes, coaches. And Cooper did it.
Arsenal,
we're happy with it.
Arsenal wins for the first time in 22 years. Do you think people are going to get off of Mikel Arteta's back now? No, it's not going to happen. The memes are not going to stop. But I just say stop with the memes. Arsenal are the champions, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy because this is a team that's been playing consistent, beautiful soccer for years, and since the arrival of Arteta. The thing with Arteta is, like, you got to pay your dues. You just got to pay your dues. You just cannot come here into Arsenal and win the championship right away. It took several years and several $1 million of euros to get it done. But he finally managed to stay on top and not derail from the top. And it's just which is hard to do. It's hard to do to sustain your performances when you are at the top of the mountain, especially of this wild and ridiculously rich mountain that is the Premier League, which, by the way, is best league in the world. And I don't think anybody has got to argue with this. Do you think, Johnny? I mean, they are the best. They're the best. It's just that's it. They got the most money. And that's what it is. Serie A was the best in the 90s. Then La Liga, and now it's the Premier League era. And by the way, the era on the competition, international competition, in Champions League, I said it here on Soccer Down Here, right? Last year, before everything was going, when the season started, the Champions League started, I said, PSG, welcome to a PSG era, because Luis Enrique came in to dominate this league after he kicked rear ends of Mbappe out of his team. It's amazing what happens. World Cup Chronicles, Roberto Sejas and Maradona, as you properly hydrate. Yes, sir. You're getting gassed up for this one. I see this.
Brother, this story is just beautiful, man. So when I'm doing this, right, when I'm telling you a story, Google out the picture. Roberto Sejas. You got the picture?
I did.
You got the picture. All right, awesome. So for everyone out there that doesn't know who Roberto Sejas was, because he passed away last October, there's a picture after Argentina won the World Cup in 1986 with Diego Maradona on the shoulders of this big dude with a mustache, with a jersey or a polo jersey. And who's this guy? That was Roberto Sejas, all right? But the story is not just, okay, Roberto Sejas, fine, so who cares? Oh, no, there's a story behind it, bro. He was watching the semifinals at his house in Santa Fe, right? And he told his friends and family, if Argentina beats Belgium, I'm going to Mexico to the finals. Oh, okay, yeah, whatever. Boom, Argentina won. So he booked a ticket right away, got into Mexico. Of course, he had no tickets for the game, right? He had no tickets for the game. He was just standing outside the Estadio Azteca trying to figure out how am I going to get it here, how I'm going to get there. And, like, you know, money talks, brother. Money talks. So, I mean, a couple of hundred here, a couple of hundred there. And he got into the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets into the stands after the final whistle. You know, there's storming people in the into the pitch of the Azteca, and he gets close to Diego, and the people was going crazy, right? And Diego tells him, "Come on, lift him up, lift me up, lift me up." And so he went out there, and boom, I got Diego Maradona on his shoulders, and that's the picture of Diego with Roberto Cejas, who just wasn't even there. He didn't have tickets for the World Cup. He didn't plan on going to the World Cup. But that's determination, brother.
Mm-hmm.
That's the power, willpower, and inspiration and luck and all the elements combined. So Roberto Cejas got his picture, and two of the famous pictures, man. Two pictures that are beautiful from Argentina, like 1978 with the soul hog, with the guy with no arms.
Mm-hmm.
Forgot his name. Jesus, forgot his name. But and then Roberto Cejas lifting Maradona, and the story behind Roberto Cejas getting into that place.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful,
right
you
there.
got it right there. Oh no, awesome.
Yep, the link at Claudine. So what are you up to? Cooking and booking? Yes,
brother. I got to tell you, I got my first cake for 50 people. I don't know how I'm gonna come. It's gonna be a big cake, brother. This is the first time I'm gonna make a cake. The guy was asking me, "Hey, Nino, can you make we're 50?" I'll figure it out, brother. I'll figure it out. Just I did the math. All right, this is the money. All right, you got it. Yes. All right, let's go for it. All right, I trust you. I trust myself too. I don't know how, but I trust myself on this one, brother. 50 people. It's gonna be a big escape.
As do we. I want a picture on the Baker's IG of that cake for 50.
Oh yeah.
And I want pictures of them devouring that cake for 50. As always, it's great to see you on Thursdays and find out about the bacon, the cooking, the booking, and the football. We love you very much, my friend. We'll catch up with you next week.
Thank you, Johnny. I'll see you next week, guys. Take care.
There he goes, Nino Torres. He is fully loaded, and now he's fully caffeinated, fully bacon, and he's fully Libertadors'd out. It's like, where's the goals on my team? So he's got some work to do in Libertadores. He's got some work to do making a cake for 50 people, which is going to be amazing. Like I said, the Instagram story of just the length and the width of this thing. If it's a cake for 50, then you've got to make it probably like 100 slices or 100 squares, because you can't just do a cake for 50 and have it be 50. Because some folks may not want, some folks might want two. So you got to think, okay, if everybody there gets two pieces, you're basically making a cake for 100. You're making a cake for 100. You're not making a cake for 50. You're doing a 100 slice. So 100 squares about that big. That's what you're hunting for. 100 squares about that big. Let me go away from my face. So you're looking at something like that big times 100. So that's what you're hunting for with this. So that is the task for Nino the Baker on the IG, the gram, or the Insta, as the kids say. The cake will have 100 slices, and I can't wait to see the pictures. I said we're still efforting and working on the travel from Orlando up here with various desserts and things. We got to figure this out. So when we can coordinate pilots and people and all that kind of stuff, the piloting would be the easy part. Going down to Orlando to get it, that's the difficult part, because not everybody drifts down to Orlando every single day. So the piloting we can figure out. The traveling to Orlando to get the Nino the Baker baked goods, that's the element in all of this. So when someone is going down to Central Florida, let us know so we can coordinate with the pilots and we can get this all squared away, so we can break international borders, and we can sit there and go, you know what? we have, I have this envisioned in my head. What we will do is we will find a way to have the Nino the Baker's baked goods, and we will unveil it here on the show in front of us, and I will make a pig of myself, and we'll do it that way. So that's the idea. But getting it from Nino to Orlando is the easy part. We just got to have somebody who loves us in Central Florida and can bring it north. That's the big thing, in like a cooler or something. So that's the hook. So that is our quest. Like I said, this is my Adams ribs from MASH. When Hawkeye wanted Adams ribs from Chicago, and he brokered his deal to get Adams ribs from Chicago to the 407 7th, this is what this is for us. This is our Adams ribs from the MASH episode with Hawkeye Pierce, getting Adams ribs from Chicago to the 407 7th. That's what this is for us. Getting Nino the Baker's baked goods from Lima, Peru to Orlando, and from Orlando to HQ here in Atlanta. This is our Adams ribs episode. And I've got to find it. Let me see if it's posted. I'm going to post the link to the Adams ribs MASH episode. So let me see if I can Adams rib MASH. Now, spell rib, John. So Adams ribs MASH. Okay, so here. Okay, so it is season 3. So it was like season 3 episode. No, it's more than season 3 because it was because Hawkeye Pierce. I mean, because Trapper John was there. So no, this was well before. This was well before season 3. This was like a season 1 kind of a thing. This was not. This was like season 1 because Wayne Rogers was in the episode. So, and by the way, West Shore Home, you might be calling the house, but I'm not picking up. That's how this runs. All right. So in the conversations, here is the short version of the rebellion that was had by Hawkeye and Trapper for Adams ribs. That's the short version right there. So you can go in and get the short version of that. And that's like when they were rebelling in the mess hall to try to get the decision to bring in Adams ribs from Chicago and go there. So that's the short version. So you can do like an Adams ribs MASH search on the YouTubes, and you can come up with the rebellion that caused ribs to go from Chicago to from Chicago to the 407 7th. So that's where that is. All right. So the remainder of the show, like I said, we are efforting and or waiting for Nico Moreno to come and join us, and I think he's going to be joining us shortly. And it'll be kind of like a rapid fire round because Chris Doran's set to join us in about 20 minutes to talk about everything Columbus Crew. It's our opposition research as we get ready for Atlanta United and the Crew on the weekend. At tomorrow's SDH AM is going to be a show of chaos. And it is going to be a show of chaos with the voices of Apple TV. Traditionally, that is what is in that first time slot involving Apple at 10 o'clock Eastern on Friday. Just to give you an idea, we do shows of chaos with Apple TV various times during the year, usually opening, before match week 1. Either All-Star break or heading into the playoffs, and then again before MLS Cup. Our friend at MLS Soccer, Kirk Reynolds, was like, well, why don't we do one since it's the last go-round before the World Cup break? And I'm like, okay, sure. So I sent him an email Tuesday, and I said, okay, we're doing it. Don't tell me who's coming. So Apple TV guests are coming. I said, just give me time slots. So I don't know who's coming. And this way we get to be completely and totally surprised in a show of chaos. Okay. It is 7:39, and he's probably on his 3rd cup of coffee. Let's find out. Nico Moreno dropping by. What cup of coffee are you on, sir?
What's going on, John? SDH family. Happy to be on, of course. This is cup number 2. So we're not as far behind as other days. And here we are, of course, trying to figure out the lag. Me and you're going to have to get together and figure this out, sir, at some point. But happy to be on. Obviously, a lot of news here in MLS. Rolling. and various components in teams. There is some games on the line. There's U.S. Open Cup. So hey, man, just let me know where you want to start, what you want to do, because there's plenty to talk about.
Heads rolling. Let's go there. Well, where do you want to talk about it with all the heads rolling? Niko Estevez actually broke when we were out during the show one day this past week. So Niko's gone, and that ain't it. But that's one of the latest ones.
Yeah, that's the big one, right? I think that we all were expecting it to happen. The one that maybe it wasn't on everybody's bingo cards was Rodrigo being let go as well, and I think that's the biggest component for Austin.
Yeah.
There have been so many wrong decisions made in terms of the roster build, in terms of
DPs,
using funds, DP money, paying for players. It seems like Austin was always playing over budget, and they're having to sell that player for less money and taking some sort of loss. If anything, you got to give credit to Austin for at least selling players for at least close to the number that they got him for. But that's just not a good way of business, right? So it was a lack of continuity of the roster. It was an inability to.
And so this is where he'll switch channels on us, and we'll see. So yeah, it was crazy. It was involving Niko. So go ahead.
Yeah, it was almost a flagrant disregard for how MLS operates, and that starts with ignoring your academy and ignoring the way you develop players within the league.
Yeah.
That goes into not understanding how to better utilize things like GAM and TAM. And I know that people are like, well, that's because it only happens in MLS. Well, yeah, but you're playing in MLS. So you got to figure out if the guy that's running the show doesn't understand that, then you got to move on. So I'm happy that beyond Niko Estevez, who both you and I thought it was an odd hire, if I'm remembering correctly, just reusing the guy from next door that was let go and that was underwhelming and that didn't quite get a grip on a roster that I thought was more put together than this one was when Niko Estevez came in. I just think that this is a new era for El Verde and that fan base, and they can at least see light at the end of the tunnel. Whereas before, even when things were going well, you knew that ultimately bad things were coming and that this team was going to underdeliver and underperform and not be successful and spend a ridiculous amount of money on a player that they didn't really need. So this is one of the few times where I say good riddance when it comes to getting rid of a front office official and a head coach. We don't see it often, not both at the same time. It's not the NFL. I feel like that happens more in the NFL. But
2 for 2. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. So yeah, we will. There's got to be a setting in there somewhere with his Wi-Fi and cell service and something like that. So this is interesting. I mean, from a technological standpoint, it's interesting that in the imitation palatial studios that he has, that we're dialing it up this way. It's just weird that he's dumped out twice this morning. Maybe it was Niko Estevez, the fans of Niko Estevez that were, and Rodo Borrell that decided to have him dump and jump this morning. So we'll see. So Yeah, I think it was fans of Borrell and Estevez that are causing the issues this morning for you. Yeah, get your sip of the coffee, and it's going to be interesting in Austin. I think Anthony Precourt's basically had enough, and that's why when you lose by 5 in San Diego, and you lose to Sporting, that's kind of like, yeah, I'm done, and you got a lot of work to do, and you're going to hire the firm to bring in the sporting director, to bring in the head coach, and so basically it's just you're wiping it clean if you're Anthony Precourt right now.
Yeah.
Wow, it was even worse. So this is what happens when we start talking about. This is what happens when we start talking about Austin. I think that Estevez and Borrell were the two that they're watching. But this is one of the things that we're getting into. We're going to get into the Hendrik Rudstrom version of this with Chris Doran coming up in about 15 minutes. And we'll break that down here. So we've got to get into Open Cup. We've got to get into Casemiro. We've got to get into the schedule. And we've got to look at everything else coming up here in just a little bit. So begging your forbearance, this is the roughest that we have ever had getting a signal out of Niko's studio. Ever since this started, this is the worst thing that has this is the worst time that we have had getting signals out. So I am intrigued in a way that I've yet to have been intrigued in the past. So we'll see what he might be just rebooting his entire computer. So I thought I did that. I'm getting emails. It's like, here, log into this and fix this. And I'm like, no, I thought I already did that. So we'll find out what the deal is, hopefully, and get into the rest of the day and the rest of what happened. Open Cup last night, for those of you that might have missed it, it was a win for Columbus. We'll get into that with Chris Doran. And Colorado knocks off San Jose by the score of 2-0. And you end up with now how it's going to be with those four. So that's your final four. We'll get into that with Chris Doran coming up once again at the top of the hour. So, we're going to Chris Doran, play-by-play voice of Crew, is going to be joining us in about 15 minutes. So we'll get into Hendrik Rudstrom and Open Cup over there with him. I do want to get into, you were mentioning paying a lot for folks, and I can't ignore Casemiro. Now it looks like Casemiro might be coming over on a free, and he's going to be taking the deal where it's the Rodrigo de Paul deal. We'll pay you less to come in. We'll prorate it, and then we'll pay you more next year. So my guess is that Luis Suarez is retiring, and that's probably going to be the angle that goes here. Casemiro apparently has verbally agreed to terms, or the sides have, and it looks like Casemiro, and they've got to buy the rights away from LAG first, but it looks like Casemiro has agreed to terms to come and join Messi and friends.
Look, that's a big get, and I'm not much for, my take on just bringing in players just because they have a trajectory or a name, or just to put butts in seats. But Casemiro has actually been pretty good, pretty consistent, even at his age. He's a guy that I feel like would adapt well less, just because his overall skill set. He really has a pedigree that Inter Miami could utilize there. Rodrigo de Paul is supposed to be the enforcer. He hasn't really been that, and I think he's been okay, just not great. And having a dog come into that midfield would be, very interesting. So, to me, I know people are upset, and they're going to continue to be upset because it does feel like, how are they getting this guy? We see the books, right? I mean, and that's understandable, right? But at the same time, look, if he can bend and stretch the way that the rules and regulations are put together, then hey, you got to praise them for it because they're just trying to make their team better. Now, hold on. I'm not saying that that's the way everybody should do it. And there's clearly a lot of things wrong with Inter Miami as an organization. And this whole thing with Lafayette, I hate it. And I do feel like they have given the keys of the organization to Lionel Messi, and he gets to do and say whatever he wants with the team, and same goes for the paw and all his boys. And I don't think that's the way business should be done. And I will stand forever on no players bigger than the club. And I've been destroyed by the Messi bots on that take because apparently if you have Messi, he should just be able to have the keys to the city as well and do what he wants and not pay taxes and be helicopter back and forth from training grounds. But the reality is that players move on, clubs remain, and much as I don't like the way that facet is handled by Miami,
that's how they choose to operate right now. Literally, that is, they have challenged the league, and that is where Inter Miami is. They have challenged the league, and look, and this is the conversation that we get into with Niko a lot, and with anybody. If that's your way, that's great. You know, if that's your way to do things, that's great. But the biggest thing is, if that's your way, and you're looking at Inter Miami and you're going, yeah, that's your way, don't try to match what you can't match just because you think you've got to go down that road. Do things your way, be confident in your path, and don't get caught up in, look, you got to tip your hat to the Moss brothers. You got to tip your hat to the front office and everybody there. Look, you want to spend all this money building a new barn in you bring in all these players. That's cool. That's your way. That's great. But if your way is to develop through a system, academy, second team, come in with new talent, younger talent, and then be successful that way, don't change your DNA just because you see the other guy with the shiny car coming in with the Porsche, and it's like, I want that Porsche. But if your Honda works and you've got 225,000 miles on the Honda and it's paid off and you don't have to pay the monthly payment on the Porsche, that if you get it dinged, the insurance payment on that thing is going to be huge. Do things your way. And I think that's what gets lost in this, is that, yeah, they're going to do their thing. Let them do their thing. That's their way. Don't screw up who you are longer term by staring at that and going, yeah, we've got to do that. We got to keep up with them. That's the biggest thing to me here.
No, and that's perfectly said, because it doesn't work everywhere. I think, you know what, Atlanta, it's a phenomenal example, because you know me and how I felt about Chris Henderson going here. I thought it was a no-brainer. It was going to be simple for him to do it. But even then, it didn't quite, work, because Atlanta has their own way of doing things, and so did Chris, and things just constantly change. But it is about just adapting to your specific team budget, ideology. Sometimes that's hard to do, even from someone as experienced as Chris Henderson. So what's next for Austin? This is a segue, but maybe not, because I know that Garth Lagerwey did not wasn't great, and maybe wasn't able to do what he wanted to do in Atlanta. But he's a guy.
And specifically where Garth is concerned, you hope that first and foremost his health is where it needs to be. That's my biggest thing involving any future Garth Lagerwey hire, because I know that Niko was leaning into the idea maybe you bring in Garth. If you want to have analytics be your way, and if Garth is in a positive enough place where he can be that hire, then I know that's where Niko was going here. First and foremost, I want Garth Lagerwey to be healthy. If Anthony Precourt wants to go down the analytics road, then that would be one of the reasons to at least consult with Garth and see what's going on. My biggest thing is, once again, Garth healthy. That's my biggest thing. All right, so we got like 5 minutes before Chris Doran joins us. And to your point about Garth, I was making it's like, first and foremost, I want Garth to be healthy. And if he's in a spot where he can consult and help you out, if you want to go down the analytics road, the 100% analytics road, if that's the path you want to take, and then, Garth can consult or do whatever. So I think that's the key. First off, he's got to be healthy enough and confident enough in his health, in his fight with cancer and blank cancer, because it sucks. But if you want to go analytics, then obviously Garth would be one of those guys to look at. So as I imagine that was where you were heading with this, yeah?
That's exactly where I was going with it, is if he is ready, not just physically, which we all hope he does, but also mentally, it takes a toll on your mental health to go through something like what he did, then I would say absolutely do it. He is someone that can give you at least the roadmap of what it is that you need to do to bring Austin where he needs to be. Because look, it's almost criminal at a
Wow. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy that we have that we've had these issues this morning. That's wild. Okay. That seriously, the fact that he has just continued to just dump like this. Wow, that's crazy. Chris Doran set to join us in about 5 minutes. We'll talk everything Crew, get Oppo research going. We'll talk Henrik Rudstrom. We'll talk Open Cup. We'll talk, oh man, I forgot my light board. Crap. I knew I forgot something. Forgot my light board to figure out how many minutes. It's like, it would like hold up at 20. So that's what I need to do. So Chris Doran said to join us in a handful of minutes. Nico Moreno from Pulso Sports and Sounder at Heart will come back. We'll mop up with him because I know he's got a couple of games on the West Coast that he wants to talk about this week. So really quickly, yeah, I don't know what's going on, brother, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out next time. We're a couple of games I know out west that you wanted to get into. I'll give you a choice: San Jose at Portland, Vancouver, San Diego, Houston, LAG, and Seattle and LAFC. Which ones are on your mind for a couple of minutes here? 2-minute drill.
2-minute drill. Yeah, look, San Jose Portland is easy. Go with the goal compost on that one. 3.5 is too little. I would take the 4.5. That might be a 3-2 game. I mean, that is going to be just pretty wide open, in my opinion. I think that both of these teams are in need of a
Mm-hmm.
But I would have passed Portland. Finally found their way into this one. I don't think Phil's going to be in Portland longer.
Yeah.
Break. There might be some changes there. That could be the case. But the San Jose has been struggling a bit, or quite, I say a lot, without Nico Shakiris and without Timo Werner. And so this is going to be an interesting one for me. The LA Galaxy Houston game is another one that is going to be tons of goals. Houston surprised me at times. They're a team that is never going to draw. They're either going to win because they're having a great game, or they put it together like they did against Vancouver, or they're going to get crushed. LA Galaxy, a big win against the Sounders. I feel like it was also very self-inflicted by Seattle. So this is a very interesting one where I'm willing to take Houston on this one.
Wow.
Numbers are on
plus 260 on Houston outright. 3.5 is where it churns for you. 4.5 was like a plus 240 for San Jose and Portland. So you were on the right page with that one.
Look, let me lock in on Houston. I like that. I'm actually going to be heading to do some juice boxes, so I'm definitely taking that one. I'm locking that in. I really do mean that. That this Houston team, if anything, they can score some goals, and I know the LA Galaxy can as well. This might be a bit of a shootout, but I do like Houston. I don't know, it's calling my name. The Sounders LAFC, I do want to hear the numbers. I'm not touching it, I don't think, but I want you to tell me what it's looking like.
It is Seattle is a plus 280 on the road, and LAFC at home is a minus 111, and the draw is a plus 290. So sounds like it's too rich for
that draw. That draw sounds pretty good. I like that draw. Yeah, I think that it could be one where, look, both of these teams because of different reasons, and maybe LAFC more desperate. So, but the Sounders are also in need of a big win. So let's leave it with a draw. I'm frozen again, it looks like. So we're gonna stop doing this. John, I apologize. Me and you're gonna figure this out. The audience, you guys deserve better. I'm gonna put that on me. Let's talk off air and we'll figure out what we can do to make this better.
You got it, brother. As always, Sounder at Heart Pulso Sports, Niko Moran. We'll see you soon, my friend.
Have a good one.
All right, there he goes. All right, it is 11 o'clock. And I kind of makeshifted something here. So let's see if I can read my own handwriting as we bring in Chris Doran to talk about everything opposition research. There we go. There's my board. The fourth has held up a board. I need audio. I can't hear you. So I see you, but I can't hear you. There it is.
Johnny, I love the board. Thanks.
There it is.
Hoping it's the stuff handled. 20 minutes, I see it.
We started talking about Austin FC and Niko Estevez, and we think that the Roto Borrell and Niko Estevez fan club, or the agents and handlers, they started getting into the gremlins. And so so I think that's what happened there. Along those lines, sir, do you want to start with Open Cup, or do you want to start with the text chain that we started on Sunday?
Oh man, yeah. Whatever you want to do. I mean, it's been a really tough week. It's been a tough couple of weeks for several people within the club, and Henrik Rudstrom got a shot. He was the right choice initially for the club. General manager Issa Tall at the time would. Actually this week told us that at the time it was the right decision to make. And, that athletic poll that was done by Paul Tenorio, who's terrific, where they talk to soccer executives around the league and they give you a chance to answer questions anonymously.
Yeah.
One of the best off-season acquisitions was, by word of the executives polled, was Henrik Rudstrom to the Columbus Crew. So this was not a decision. While it was done within the Columbus Crew and the ownership silo, it was appreciated in other silos as well. It's unfortunate things didn't work out. We've heard this before. You never know until they get there. And then there are variables, the variables that include cultural acclimation. And I'm not saying that was entirely an issue. There were a lot of little things that led up to his dismissal on Sunday. But it's tough for coaches from other countries to come to the United States and get acclimated to this league and to this country too.
Yeah.
Look at Atlanta. Atlanta's a great example, a melting pot. You can go to any neighborhood in Atlanta, no matter your cultural heritage, and feel right at home. But if you walk 2 blocks to the east or 3 blocks to the south, man, you're in another world. That's not to say there's anything wrong with that layout. It is to say that no matter where you are in America, there are going to be adjustments that you have to make from a cultural standpoint. So there's that. And then, of course, the results weren't going Columbus's way. There is the commitment that the ownership and the leadership group have put toward the Columbus Crew way that they won't budge on. It doesn't mean we always have to play 3 in the back, but it does mean that there are certain principles that won't be broached or shouldn't be broached.
Right.
So, I loved Henrik Rudstrom. John, you could tell he was a great interview. He spoke openly about what he was dealing with. And perhaps at some point the frustration bubbled over and he was just like, okay, this is, this is.
Well, but that's how some folks in European countries are. I mean, like if you want to talk to someone who is Dutch by birth and upbringing, they're going to be as open and honest, and we might even think of it as blunt when it comes to their thoughts, and they may not be as, and I'll go ahead and use air quotes and put a dollar in the jar, diplomatic in their sound as you would think, they're going to tell you what's on their mind, and that's just how they are. And I think that sometimes that gets lost in translation, or that gets lost in interpretation and feel. And you're going, well, man, that was kind of blunt, and he takes out the sledgehammer and busts the glass. But that's just how they are, and it's up to us, I think, at times to understand, almost like it's almost like defensive driving for other cultures where we're concerned. We have to think about ourselves and about them when they're coming and having conversations with us. And I think that's just something that we have to become more knowledgeable about and understand where that other person's coming from when they say stuff like this.
And that's a really great analogy. I love that. And it works. And it worked for us in the media room.
Mm-hmm.
How much it worked or didn't work in the locker room, I think we've been led to believe that at times it just wasn't a really smooth transition.
Mm-hmm.
And so Laurent Courtois takes over as interim head coach.
Yes, he does.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy.
What, did that surprise you?
No, just I know what's coming.
What do you mean?
Because of his time with Crew 2, and I mean, I'm talking like on the field. And it's like, you've got to prepare. You've got to be ready for anything and everything. And you can look at tape as far back as you want, and it is you've got to be prepared for this center back to be marauding forward and coming off the right-hand side. You're not going to have anything involving real true formations. Folks are going to be wandering into spaces. And if you have in your mind a vision of a set formation where Laurent Courtois is concerned, much like Wilfried Nancy and much like Henrik Rudström, don't get stuck in this notion of, okay, it's just going to be these four like this, these four like this, these two up here like this. No, it's going to be like a spirograph exploded, man. You've got to be ready for anything and everything coming at you. And it's almost like you're going like this. It's like dodgeball at times, having to deal with what Laurent Courtois is going to be coming at you with. And out of the blocks, it was an Open Cup win, and then you get Atlanta United in the last match before the World Cup break. You got to be ready for everything where he's concerned.
Well, it's a great point. I think the players indicated to us as much that they are probably a little more anxious even than Laurent to get back to a way of playing that they're more accustomed and comfortable with.
Yeah.
And we saw, a multitude of signs of that last night in the 1-0 win over New York City in the quarterfinal of the Open Cup.
Mm-hmm.
New York City had beaten us 10 days ago, 3-0 on a Hannes Wolf hat trick.
Mm-hmm.
Hannes Wolf is tremendous. I've liked him since he landed at New York City 3 years ago. So I'm going to say I was ahead of that curve.
There you go.
But it was the same lineup, less Keaton Parks last night, that we saw 10 days ago. And essentially for Laurent, it was the same lineup that Henrik Rudström put on the field at Yankee Stadium 10 days ago for Columbus. So this was going to be a full-on battle. And it was a, kind of a boring chess match in the first half, but these games always do come down to a second half ebb and flow that's at a much higher rate than the first half. Both teams exhausted after a full week of 3 games in 8 days.
Yeah.
And New York on the road for the second of 3 this week. They go to Nashville on the weekend. So, we were just happy to be back in town, happy to be back at Scott's Miracle Grow Field. And you get beyond that, you get the new coach's bump. You get a good vibe in the locker room. Darlington Nagbe has returned to the bench temporarily as an assistant coach to put another set of eyes on the first team performance while the staff gets sorted out. And, it was a really good performance last night against a very good New York City team.
I wonder whether it's between the ears or on the pitch, what not having Maxi Morales meant to that bunch too, considering he is a troublemaker of the highest order. And I say that in the most complimentary way humanly possible.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And Jonathan Shore did his damnedest last night to mimic as much as he possibly could. And Kai Truin was terrific too in the midfield. Those two guys are really a 6 and an 8. They're not a Maxi Morales, but we also had Nico Fernandez was truly the Maxi Morales in that role last night for New York City. And if Glenn Crooks is listening, he should be pleased that 12 hours later, I'm naming all of his team's players.
There you go.
Glenn Crooks, the voice of New York City FC.
Yeah.
You know, I think Niko's really good. Maxi is just a bit level better. He's got 3 assists on the U.S. Open Cup stretch. He's got a bazillion assists in his time spent in MLS, and he could have been a big help. But, you know, City did what they could, made it a second half game, put us under pressure late. We never had a test of the goalkeeper, Nico Hagen. So City's going to leave that game scratching their heads saying, how come we couldn't create at least 1 or 2 chances in the box? You know, it was just a good performance. It was a very typical game of that level. And we're looking forward to the semifinal against Orlando City at our place in September.
Orlando, absolutely true. Boss loves it when I start quoting Book of Mormon and busting out that as a theater kid that she was. She loves it when I do those kinds of things. So then you build off of the midweek, and you're doing it with all of this external stuff going on and trying to build and play another match. At least it's on Sunday as opposed to Saturday. And schedule compression, all the stuff between the ears and on the field, and you got to get, and you're coming with Atlanta right before the break. What kind of a match are you anticipating? Is it everybody sitting there going, what can you give me? What can you give me? What can you give me? Darlington, can we use you for 15 minutes at the end? I mean,
he's not wearing a jersey, John.
I mean, we need you to calm things down at the end. Darlington, can you wear somebody else's jersey and you know, be reported in and get the substitution right, unlike what they did with Neymar last weekend? But what kind of a match are you anticipating, considering the grind that Columbus has been in and through to get to the end of the line here? That's about right. That's when you went, yeah, that's about right. Because I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's great that we have an extra day.
Yeah.
And I think that both of these teams want to end this portion of the season knowing that they've got a positive or 2 under their belts. Columbus is at home, should take advantage of it. We spent a whole week out on the East Coast last week and lost twice and tied once to Philly. There's no time at this point with 9 losses on the season to take a break. Max Arfston is waiting for a call from Mauricio Pochettino. Steven Moreira has already been invited with Cape Verde. He'll be in Atlanta, I think, in that match against Portugal in the World Cup group play.
Can't wait.
And by the way, congrats to Atlanta for making their seats some of the most affordable seats in the country for the World Cup.
Concessions, too, brother. Concessions. That is one of the other things. Concessions, that never changed. A lot of people are sitting there going, "Oh, well, what about concessions?" Yeah, it's that way. It's always been that way. It's not changing for the World Cup. Ain't changing for nobody. You can go and get the basic food. That price never changed either.
Yeah, I love the attention that Arthur Blank has brought to soccer in your city, and I think we, as soccer people and as fans of the game, should consider ourselves blessed for the investment that's been made on behalf of soccer in America on all levels.
Yeah.
And so I think you're going to see a very spirited performance on Sunday. What we saw last night was a very disciplined rotation of players in and out of positions, coverage where it needed to be handled, and threats through the middle of the park into attacking sequences. So you put Matt Freese on the back on his heels a little bit. Freese comes up with 90% of those saves. If you put Atlanta under that pressure, all due respect at this point in their evolution, maybe you get lucky one more time. And I think the team needs that, the club needs that, and I think the supporters need it too, because it has been a bit of a drone over the last several weeks. And I will admit that we're spoiled in Columbus, but we also have high expectations. And I think for a period of time, you felt that in Atlanta.
Still do, yeah.
And you're probably a little numb to it, but I think Atlanta fans have got to have those expectations as well, and hopefully those expectations are met sooner rather than later for both clubs.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, all of the goodwill, if you want to use that term, over the last 6 or 7 matches leading into the midweek, where it seemed like the team was turning the corner, understanding what Tata Martino wanted to have them do. Defense was there before the offense was, no real surprise. Relationships were forming. You weren't having bumper cars when you were trying to formulate things in the attacking third. And all of that just goes circling down the drain into file 13, and you hear the sanitation truck and the brakes that need to be replaced. You knew that thing was coming, and then you hear the outside. That's what happened in Orlando. Those 6 to 7 matches, it is gonzo, considering that you gave up 4 in the first 45 to the purple team. And now you got to wonder, injuries in the center back position because Anea Mihai injured his shoulder a week ago. He was not part of the party in Central Florida. You wonder where folks are when it comes to their minutes, considering it'll be third match 9 days. It's going to be interesting what the layout's going to be for Tata in this last match before the World Cup break, considering everything that happened in the midweek. And Tata, after the match, was like, yep, that's on me. The formation change, it's on me. And that's what coaches do in these situations. They're going to sit there. They're going to take the heat for it. I'm just as intrigued as you are, because I think that we're looking in a mirror when it comes to expectations, the talent that's on hand, the coaching staff that is there for Atlanta and that was there for Columbus. I think that this is a mirror image game where you have expectations and fans being where they are. You're dissatisfied with where you are in the standings. And so who takes that first positive step with the last match before the World Cup break?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of ways to look at it. And I agree with you that maybe these teams are similar. I would say it would be easier for Atlanta to lose on the road on Sunday than it would be for Columbus to lose at home.
True.
And I hope that mental exercise is a part of the preparation going into Sunday and part of the locker room talk on Sunday afternoon at Scott's Miracle Grow Field.
Mm-hmm.
We're going back to a roster of players who won MLS Cup, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And at the very least, they won the 2024 Leagues Cup. They know what that race is like. There are still 3 trophies on the line for Columbus. There are 2 available for Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
The season is not lost. What will happen in the 8-week break for the World Cup will be critical for all the teams in the league.
Mm-hmm.
As we look at the acquisition of talent, the selling of talent, and the settling of rosters going into Leagues Cup coming out of July.
How busy do you anticipate it being in Columbus? Because I anticipate that it's going to be pretty busy / fairly busy here with the roster currently in hand.
Well, it's interesting. Let's talk about selling talent. I think the Leadership Council, headed up by Captain Sean Zawatsky, it was articulated to us on Tuesday from Sean that, there were a lot of messages going back and forth between players and then eventually with the leadership group within the club. I'm sure there are some players that were not happy that they weren't playing as much for whatever reason. And now that tune maybe changes in these 2 games, the Open Cup game last night and the Atlanta game on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Does that player, disappointed he's not playing during the Rootstrom games, say to himself, okay, you know what? Maybe I could stay in Columbus. Maybe I need to withdraw my request to be traded. Maybe there is a spot for me in August in that busy stretch of games for every team in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And then, of course, there are the needs. Wessam Abu Ali went down with a torn ACL not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's our star striker. All due respect to Diego Rossi. Diego's not a number 9, but Wessam is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's gone for the season. So what kind of flex do you have as a club and as an ownership group? What kind of money are you willing to put up to a team that is typically spending in the middle third or just to the lower end of the top third in the league, and find yourself a solution up top if you need one for the remainder of the season. We saw Jamal Tiare come back last night. He's a former Atlanta player. Came back from injury last night. He injured himself at the beginning of April in an Open Cup game down in Richmond. It was great to see him back. And I saw what Henrik Rudstrom kept saying was that this club needs a number 9 to take the pressure off our possession phases when we're in the lead or chasing the game, chasing a tie, because the number 9 can go up and occupy space between the two center backs and distract them from stepping forward and cutting off passes into the gaps, so into the space between the lines.
Yeah.
So I saw that in real time last night. Rudstrom was right. And if TRA had been healthy over this stretch, maybe the results would have been different. Who knows? But I still think we need a guy who can receive, turn, and finish. I think we need a target up top. And I do think a center back, maybe a U22, maybe somebody who's up and coming, makes the most sense for the black and gold. So we have plenty of midfielders. We have really talented players top to bottom on this team. And I'm anxious to see the younger players get more playing time. I think they will in Leagues Cup. But beyond that, it's hard for me to say. I love the roster. That's what we do, John. You and I take the sheet, we look at the players, we talk to them, we fall in love with them. Someone changes up, we throw it, in the wind, and we say, okay, that's the business of our sport, and we welcome in the new player. If there are changes made, smarter people than me will be making those decisions.
Right now, looking at the numbers, and this is as of March when they posted them, just over $950,000 in GAM available for Columbus. And in the 3-and-3 model right now, the DPs, Wes, Gazdag, Rossi, U22s, Akanzada, Aliou, and Hugo Picard. So that's the rundown of the 3-and-3 model and the GAM available as we go. I could take you and I could go for like an incredible amount of time to just break down everything and break bread and everything, but I'm going to let you go get brunch, and I know that you're incredibly busy, so go ahead and hit the promo for me and let everybody know how they can hit the local radio option on Sunday.
John, I appreciate that so much. As usual, our thanks to Apple Television. They put the local radio call for all home games on the radio. You can listen to the guys from Atlanta for home games with Atlanta. You can listen to our broadcast on home games, including this weekend on Apple Television. But find us on iHeartRadio. I'm at Chris Doran 18 on X.
Yes.
And I look forward to seeing your guys on Sunday afternoon at Scott's Miracle Grow Field.
As always, just give your best to Mike and Jason. They're going to love seeing you. And as one of our great friends and one of our roster of amazings, it's always great to see you, my friend. And we will catch up with you soon. Love you very much. And we'll see you around the corner.
Love you too, John. Thanks for the time.
All right, Chris Doran, everybody. And so that is Chris Doran. And it is always cool to catch up with him and find out what in the wide world of sports is going on in Columbus, because it is its own animal. And it is one of those things that is, when it comes to all of that stuff. So got to keep an eye on all of that. And so that's where we are right now. And it's always great to catch up with Chris and find out what's going on. Okay. Hang on just a bit. I have got to, where is my, I don't want to edit my avatar. I mean, because my avatar's right there. Let's see. Oh, shoot. Hang on. Oh, yeah. We're fine. Okay. All right. So hang on just a second, and we will be. Hang on. Yeah. So that's what I was trying to do. Going over all the news and notes and nuggets and things before we go on our way. we do have a UPSL update that we have to get into, and a bunch of other things that are on the rundown. And a lot of it kind of has to do with Southampton, believe it or not, because Southampton still is, doing it's like the EFL. We've got to get into that. And so let me break down where we were. Okay, the Spygate fallout, according to our friends at the Athletic. And you got, obviously, and this is from our friend Jordan Campbell. Once again, Southampton gets expelled from the playoffs. Beat Middlesbrough 2-1 on aggregate. Middlesbrough reinstated because of the Southampton intern analyst secretly videoing a section of the work 2 days before the tie's first leg. You're not supposed to do that 72 hours and in. And so now it is Middlesbrough and Hull. Southampton appealed while we were off the air, and it was rejected on Wednesday late local time. 4-point deduction applying to the championship next season after they also admitted to previously spying on Oxford United and Ipswich Town training. And in those matches, they were in the teams that they were going up against, literally, they were 0-3. They lost all 3 matches where this admitted to spying Oxford United, they lost. Ipswich Town, they lost. And then they lose also in the other one to Middlesbrough. They were 0-3. So you're looking for the legal basis for expelling Southampton from the playoffs. Once again, we go back to what happened with Bielsa and Leeds. And at the time, there was not a rule in place to guard against that kind of privacy breach, and since it happened through the regular season. And so now that it comes in the playoffs, according to legal analysts, it made it that much more difficult. So Southampton admits to breaching EFL Rule 3.4, which is the one you're behave towards each other and the league with the utmost good faith. They also admitted to breaching Rule 127, spying before games inside the window that we talk about the 72 hours prior, Middlesbrough, Oxford United, and Ipswich. So they consulted sports lawyer Dan Chapman, saying that the case is in fact unique. There were precedents, kind of. 1990, Swindon denied promotion to the top division despite winning the playoff final. The chairman admitted 36 charges involving illegal payments to players over 5 years. Sunderland were promoted instead. Newcastle claimed they should have been promoted as the highest league finishers behind Swindon. And that kind of goes into the next element of all of this that we'll get into in a second, involving Millwall and Wrexham. Swindon kicked out of the EFL trophy because they fielded this year 2 ineligible players. Oliver Clark, who was serving a 7-game suspension, came on as a sub. Player who started the second 45 wasn't on the team sheet. 2014, Cardiff complained to the Premier League the starting lineup had been illegally obtained by Crystal Palace, who beat them 3-0. Palace only got a £25,000 fine. So then Southampton, why were they handed 2 separate punishments? And Middlesbrough had made clear their intention was to sue for the loss of opportunity if a meaningful sporting sanction was not administered. EFL successfully argued the breaches against Ipswich and Oxford happened in the regular league season. Spying against Middlesbrough happened during the playoff period, so it was 2 separate competitions, and that's why you ended up with the two separate punishments. And so now talks are scheduled to take place today between the Serbian owner of the club, staff, and players. Dragan Solak apparently is beyond angry. Understandably so. So Solak is beyond angry at this entire process. And it was now the future of manager Tonda Eckert, sporting director Johannes Spors. Athletic has been told by multiple sources, many staff members have been left furious once again how events have folded. Players have even gotten to the point to where they're mad at the front office as well. And they're wondering about what kind of repercussion they could have because they were denied the opportunity to continue and, be playing for Southampton as the way that they should. So you're looking at those kinds of things involving the players that are mad, they're wondering if they have any legal recourse against the club. You have the owner who is mad. You probably have a manager who's going to be sacked, if not suspended, later by the EFL, and a sporting director who may be sacked as well. Sport Republic CEO Rasmus Ankerson hasn't been on the ground much at all, according to The Athletic. Southampton's statement issued Wednesday promised a thorough review of the culture. So now you wonder what's going to happen with Eckert and the players and the implications of the EFL. Hull's going to play. Sources have told The Athletic they do not believe EFL's rules allow for a losing club to be reinstated in these circumstances. Hull sought legal advice on whether they should be awarded a walkover, as only they've made it to Wembley on sporting merit, beating Millwall in the semis in the aggregate. Owner Ashon Ilikali gave an interview to Sky saying his team has been disadvantaged by the delay in knowing their opponent. Ipswich and Oxford could also have a case, but once again, Oxford was relegated by 4 points, and even if a default victory, they'd still be relegated by 1 point. And then if you have any other evidence, obviously we talked about Wrexham as well. One EFL chief executive, speaking anonymously, posited a novel way to redress the imbalance involving parachute payments. Southampton's set to get their second payment of £40 million this summer. So fine equal to the remaining parachute payment for next season would be a good way of balancing sporting integrity for next season and not just points. And so you're looking there when it comes to Southampton and Hull and Middlesbrough now. Middlesbrough and Hull in the richest soccer game on the planet. So you got that. Busy day for our buddy Ben Jacobs. And just to give you an idea what's going on with Ben, it's going to be headlines from Ben Jacobs, by the way. And all right, so here's what Ben knows and what he's been reporting on this morning. Kobe Mainoo expected to make Thomas Tuchel's squad. Morgan Rogers looks like he is going to be, he's been named 25-26 UEFA Europa League Player of the Season. And it looks like he'll be named in Tuchel's squad as well. Football Association has opened an investigation into Southampton over Spygate, and Saints have been expelled. They can't appeal because it can't go to CAS. FA is going to look at specific individuals, including Eckert. Southampton considering whether it's appropriate to sack him. FA has the power to charge the club and even impose a ban on individuals. There is an appeals process. Atletico de Madrid have entered the race for Bernardo Silva, according to Marca. Pessimism from Juve. Bernardo Silva is progressing following talks. Casemiro and Inter Miami, we talked about that with Nico Moreno a little bit. Proposed deal signs a less lucrative first year than move to a DP on a non-guaranteed extension. Compensation to LAG, who hold discovery rights, yet to be determined. Not expected to be an issue. So also, Porto confirmed Thiago Silva is going to leave this summer at the end of the contract to help after he helped win the title. It was, we mentioned verbal terms agreed. Atleti, Thiago Silva, mentioned all of that. And our buddy Ben Jacobs, by the way, is going to be the USMNT reporter for TalkSport for the World Cup. So it's going to be cool to have Ben on this side of the Atlantic. And apparently he was in the Manchester United media match today. Posted pictures of that. Unai Emery on his future at Aston Villa. I'm ambitious. And, of course, I need support from the owners and everyone that works in the club and from the players. They are following us. We're doing it together, but we must try to set our ambitions, being clear and realistic. Every step forward we are doing makes sense. Next year, we play in the Champions League. And this is the challenge. Premier League's the most difficult league in the world. To be fighting for a top 7, 5, 4, something's very difficult. Hopefully we can be close with teams like City and Arsenal. Congratulations to them for their title. Abby, I know that you're gone, but you'll continue cycling back. Very busy FIFA volunteering. And then very unhappy with how the All-Stars are chosen. Really, I know. And we have not heard any Garth updates, Abby. We have not. I don't know what the deal was with Niko. I really don't. That was crazy. I don't know what was up with Niko and his electronics. He would apologize. He apologized on social media, by the way, or DMing me. So that was the way it was with Niko this morning, who was having a lot of issues. Spokane Zephyr, we got to get into that. Spokane Zephyr have the franchise is folded in USL Super League in Gainbridge. Dave Nichols, we've reached out to at the Spokesman Review in Spokane to see if we can catch up with him tomorrow about it. And ownership announced that on the team's website, they launched in 2024 in the USL Super League season, owned by ACUS Sports, who also operates Velocity, the men's team in League One. Spokane PFD and ACUS Sports finalized the 10-year deal in September 23, clearing the way for professional soccer at One Spokane Stadium. There had been earlier suggestions, according to Dave, at ACUS had struggled to meet financial expectations. Last summer, the ownership team, which includes Ryan and Katie Harnacchio and local developer Jordan Tampion, missed the deadline for a balloon payment required in the contract with Spokane Public Facilities District, which owns One Spokane. The PFD Board, Public Facilities District Board, set to vote on terminating the contract, but gave the teams an extra day, during which the ownership came up with the money demanded. Under ACUS's original deal, owed about $2.5 million in March of 25, set to pay the agency another $2 million in November 27, according to a state audit. Details for the decision to cease operation not included in the news release. And the CEO of the Public Finance District, Stephanie Curran, said they're committed to promoting women's sports, looks forward to hearing ACUS's plans to continuing women's soccer in Spokane. 10-9 this season, and missed out on the playoffs on the last day on goal difference. They reportedly drew 2,500 in their inaugural season last year. Attendance fell by nearly 1,000 fans this season. And so, once again, ACUS is still waiting to hear about how the Public Finance District is waiting to hear on how ACUS plans on helping women's soccer and the future of Velocity. So, that sadly happened. CONCACAF W, Gotham lost last night. Washington Spirit won last night. Both matches 1-0. Washington Spirit will now play in the final of the CONCACAF W Champions League. And let's see, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Let's get into that before we get out of here. Plus our gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we go. And Liga MX's Clausura begins. The final begins, first leg, Cruz Azul and Pumas. That is tonight. Libertadores at 6 and 8:30 on BN. You can get BN and get all the BNs at fanati7tz.co/soccer down here. And it's always great to get a lot of matches that you wouldn't have had the chance to otherwise. A lot of the A and B divisions in a bunch of different countries in South America, Libertadores, Sudamericana, all the BNs, which means you get Turkish League, French League, and Polish League, which is wrapping up this weekend. Crazy finishes to get into European play and to get out of the relegation zone. Then it is Tigo Sports, CATV ties. It is Liga 1 Max Pro out of Peru. TVV out of Venezuela if you want it. CDO out of Chile if you want it. And because you get the BNs, you get everything on the African continent. You get CAF, you get AFCON, you get Champions League, you get all the qualifiers, all the things in one place. Teis out of Argentina to help things out at fanati7tz.co/soccer down here. CBS Sports Network has the Liga MX matchup with Cruz Azul and Pumas. League we don't talk about on FS2 at 2 o'clock. BN and Espanol simulcasting, as is Fox Deportes. TUDN and Univision simulcasting also for the matchup at 10 o'clock. Bundesliga promotion playoffs on the Plus at 2:30 with Wolfsburg and Paderborn. Eredivisie, 2 matches. Ajax, Groningen at 12:45. Utrecht, Heerenveen at 3. Fox O&E, the league we don't talk about. Fox Soccer Plus simulcasting. Paramount Plus, the Scottish Premiership. Partick Thistle and St. Mirren is at 3. Now, gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and then we'll get out of here. And thanks for hanging out with us. Tomorrow we will not be as long. We'll be long with the voices from Apple TV and the news and everything, but we won't be as long today. Manuel Neuer, by the way, made the World Cup squad at the age of 40. And Madrid have given Vinicius Jr. early leave for Brazil. Arteta did not watch the Manchester City match. He said he went home to barbecue. Aston Villa getting their first trophy in 30 years. Congratulations to Ricky and to all of those of you who villain. And looking at the transfer rumors, Christian Romero's on the radar, Barcelona. Bayern Munich looking at John Stones. According to Sport, La Liga champs keeping tabs on Romero's situation amid the relegation battle. Don't want to meet the current transfer valuation of €60 million. Barca have agreed on personal terms on a loan with Manchester United winger Marcus Rashford, joining on a permanent, trying to negotiate a lower fee than the €30 million option clause in the contract. Four-letter paper, Bayern Munich and John Stones reported that they could be his favorites to secure his signature should they advance their interest due to his relationship with Vincent Kompany, also linked with Everton, Barca, and Coventry City. Liverpool made contact with the signing of Hoffenheim winger Bazemana Touré, according to Team Talk. Formally registered interest in the 20-year-old, offer worth in the region of €40 million, could be enough to land him. Capped 5 times by Ivory Coast, 5 + 9 in 30 Bundesliga matches this year. And United, Villa, and Newcastle also watching. United keeping tabs on Southampton midfielder Shea Charles, sent scouts to watch him, according to the Mirror. Now may decide to move on for a fee in the region of £20 million. Chelsea among the teams looking at a free transfer of Dusan Vlahovic from Juve, according to Football Insider. Blues could look to sign Liam Delap, who's expected to move on from Stamford Bridge in the window. Newcastle looking at Vlahovic. Bianconeri hopeful of signing him to a new deal to avoid losing him for nothing this summer with less than 2 months left on the deal. Rapid fire. Manchester United leading the race for Mateus Fernandes from West Ham, linked to Arsenal and PSG. Team Talk. Telegraph. Newcastle set to now keep hold of Nick Voltemade, despite all of his struggles this year. Gazzetta dello Sport. Alisson would still be open to joining Juve in the event they miss out on qualifications for Champions League. Mundo Deportivo. Marc-Andre ter Stegen prioritizing staying at the club despite uncertainty over his future. AC Milan remain keen on Arsenal striker Gabriel Jesus and Leon Goretzka from Bayern Munich. That's from Tutto Sport. Al Hilal's Darwin Nunez open to a return to the Premier League in the summer. Talk Sport. Marca. Atletico de Madrid interested in signing Bernardo Silva on a free. Football Insider. Bournemouth have identified Sporting defender Ousmane Diomande as a potential replacement for Marco Senesi, who is set to leave the club when his contract expires in the summer. Sport. Barcelona open to parting ways with Ansu Fati permanently after his loan spell at Monaco ends. Bild. Dortmund are not confident signing Jadon Sancho when he returns from his loan spell at Villa. Team Talk. Brentford, the latest club to show interest in FC Cologne winger Said Al-Mallah, on the radar of Chelsea and Brighton. Gazzetta. Roma prioritizing a move for RB Leipzig winger Antonio Nusa. Sky. Brighton remaining interested in Toulouse defender Charlie Cresswell. Damn, that's a lot today. Okay. Whew. All right, UPSL will be tomorrow. Get you ready for the weekend. Day of Chaos is tomorrow. Get you ready for the weekend. Thanks to Jason for sending us early part of the interview with Dimitrios Efstathiou from Atlanta United to discuss the welcoming party and just the overall welcome for the Uzbek Football Association as they get ready for the World Cup. Thanks to Dustin Jeanette, GMC Prep. Thanks to Clayton Schmidt, Holy Innocents. Thanks to Joe Gould, the GM for Decatur FC, WPSL season with Drew Dickinson and myself tomorrow. Be in Decatur, looking for a great season opening crowd there, and support your local franchise regardless of level, because it's part of what grows the game. Thanks to Nino and Niko. Thanks to Chris Doran. And thanks to all of you for being a part of things here on the SDH Network. Another round of SDH AM. Once again, the voices of Apple tomorrow. I don't know who yet. I don't know when yet, but they'll be here. And then we'll get you ready with what's going on also with Atlanta United and the U16s and the UPSL to get you set for your weekend. So that's another go-round of us here. Mucho Platiel, play it safe. Since it's the end of the show, that means one thing. I get to do this. See you later. Be safe. Go get some lunch.